I thought you wanted to find, right? Second.
People on, I believe them.
Good evening, all. Mayor, do you want me to do the citation for the executive session?
Hold on a second, Bo, in a second, let me, I'm scrambling to get the agenda up and.
Sure.
Those of you who are online, who are, not on council, we're gonna have a short executive session, so if you jump off for like 15 minutes and then come back, we'll get you back in. Thank you. All right, so we are. Sort of, give me a break. All right, so I will call the regular Ridgway Town Council meeting of Wednesday, February 12th, 2025 order and have a roll call vote, please. Just a roll call.
Councillor Scrambling.
Here.
Kroger.
Here.
Bacon. Here. Schuyler.
Here.
Scoville. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here. Thanks, Pam. So to start off, we've got an executive session. So yes, Bo, will you read the citation, please?
Yes, Mayor, if we could get a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 24-6-4024B for receiving legal advice on specific legal questions and determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiators and or instructing negotiators pursuant to 24-6-4024E concerning the possible condemnation of real property for the creation of a recreational trail along the real property located at 539 Marion Overlook.
So moved. Second. Motion made by Russ, seconded by Terry. Roll call vote, please.
Councillor Scrambling.
Aye.
Kroger.
Aye.
Bacon. Aye. Schuyler.
Aye.
Scoville.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Great, thank you. Amanda, you need to hop off too. Come back in like 15 minutes, we'll be back on.
She's not listening.
Are you there, Amanda? We may have to just kick you out for a second. Ooh. All right. Take it away, Bo.
All right, it is Wednesday, February 12th. The time is 5:34 p.m. I am the town attorney. This is an executive session pursuant to 24-6-4024B for the purpose of receiving legal advice on a specific legal question, and CRS 24-6-4024E for determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under 24-6-4024E concerning the possible condemnation of real property for the creation of a recreational trail along real property located at 439 Marion Overlook. Also present in the executive session are as follows. I'll turn it over to the room.
Preston Neal.
Terry Schuyler.
Beth Lakin. Josie Scoville.
John Clark. Russ Meyer.
Kevin Grambley.
Pam Kraft.
Holly Kroger.
And on Zoom, we've got Attorney Joseph Rivera. I caution each of the participants to confine the discussion to the stated purpose of the executive session and that no formal action may occur during the executive session. If during the executive session, any person believes we go outside the proper scope of the executive session, please interrupt the discussion and make an objection. As the attorney for the town of Ridgway, it is my position that the discussion constitutes a privileged attorney-client communication Therefore, I'm recommending that no recording be kept of this executive session. The time is 5:44 p.m. We have concluded the executive session and we are returning to the open meeting. This was an executive session pursuant to 24-6 4024B for the purpose of receiving legal advice, 24-6 4024E for determining positions matter and subject matters subject to negotiation. Excuse me. This is with respect to the Marion Overlook condemnation. Participants in the executive session were as follows: Bo Nerlin,
Preston Neal. Terry Schuyler.
Beth Lakin, Josie Scoville.
John Clark,
Russ Meyer. Kevin Grambling.
Pam Croft.
Holly
Also-
Kroger.
also attending via Zoom was Attorney Joseph Rivera. If any of the council members feel like we went outside the proper scope of the executive session, please make an objection on the record. All right, thank you all.
thanks, Bo.
Thanks, Bo.
So we are back in session. We'll give a couple minutes for people to get readmitted. I see Amanda wanting to get back on. Looks like she's coming on. Again, welcome everybody who is coming on Zoom right now. There's nobody here in the room with us, but welcome. We had a short executive session and now we're ready to tackle the regular agenda. Sit tight for a second though. Still pulling things together.
Oh, Josie? Yeah. Oh, you're so sweet.
What are you, 3 pounds?
And not full of
No, if the estimates are right, based on the 60% growth at 6 months and 50% or whatever, he should be close to it.
Okay.
But he's also like very mellow for a puppy. Very, very mellow. So all things considered, like
That's
whatever,
amazing.
be 80 pounds, as long as you're just like hanging out.
Chill. Awesome. I'm jealous.
He's a very good boy. I got to see him on Monday, and he is a very handsome and dapper gentleman indeed.
We wouldn't get into training. Pepper.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, people rides to like play, but when you're like, we are just sorry, but fun is not happening.
Stare at the cat.
No, I think we were at a brief, I've given up on the cat. The cat one, nothing to do with.
All right, I think we're ready to dive in full speed. We have a very big menu agenda tonight, and telling Preston earlier, if I'm less than focused tonight, it's just I'm sort of overwhelmed with all that's going on in the world right now, and finding it hard to focus. So bear with me if I fade out. But back to the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda tonight?
I have some.
Okay.
Mayor. If we could please add 2 items. The first one, consideration of authorizing a letter of support for the Billy Creek State Wildlife Area and Compagre River Fisheries Improvement Project. That's number 1.
We've all got a letter in front of us to that effect.
Yeah, sorry for printing that out in the last minute. And please add consideration of authorizing a letter to U.S. Congressman Jeff Hurd concerning recent orders from the Secretary of the Interior that impact Colorado. Those are the 2 items, please.
Great, thank you. I guess we'll take those up at the end of policy matters.
That works, I assume.
Pam, got anything?
I do not think so.
Okay. All right, that takes us to the adoption of the consent calendar. Is there anything on there anybody wants to pull off? And if not, is there a motion to approve? So moved. Second. Motion by Russ, seconded by Kevin. Roll call vote, please.
Council members Ridgway.
Aye.
Kroger.
Wally, you're in.
Aye. Sorry, it was having a hard time unmuting. Aye.
Okay.
Bacon. Aye. Skylar.
Aye.
Scoville.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Great, thank you. That takes us to public comments. This is established time for the public to address the council regarding any item that is not otherwise listed on the agenda. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to make a public comment? If you can't find the raise hand button, just unmute and speak up. Going once, going twice. All right, I will close public comments. That takes us to a long list of policy items tonight. First one is item number 7, first reading of ordinance number 01-2025, amending section 7-4 of the zoning regs and section 8-5 of short-term rentals of the Ridgway Municipal Code. Angie.
Hi, thanks. Oh. Sure. Thank you. Okay, so this is a little bit different than the meeting I was hoping to have because the planning commission recommended approval of the text amendments at their last regular meeting. So this review at town council was intended to be a first reading of the ordinance. However, we had to modify the ordinance to include a definition of owner occupied. So the staff recommendation is going to be that the council sends this back to the planning commission. I'll still go over everything if you don't mind. So short-term rentals are addressed in both chapter 7 and 8 of our code. This update covers both chapters. In 746N, an incorrect code reference was updated. Downtown service was included with the general commercial and historic business zones to allow short-term rentals in multifamily buildings. We also changed the reference from 2 to multiple to align better with our ADU regulations or accessory dwelling unit regulations. And since accessory dwelling units can be attached or detached, we also updated any reference of structures to dwelling units in this section. And then for reference, the dark blue on this map is the downtown service district. So it's along Sherman Street corridor on the west side of town. In the same section under performance standards, the red line sections here were actually moved to chapter 8, section 5, which we'll see on a later slide. And then in chapter 8, section 5 covers licensing of short-term rentals. This was modified to clarify 2 points. So whether a property owner is renting a bedroom or an entire dwelling unit, a license is needed to do so on a short-term basis. They can rent long-term. So, and then the owner must prominently display their license number wherever the unit is advertised. No changes were made here to the license fee section because fees are enacted by a separate town council resolution. And then in 853, the subsection is now called license administration. It was called supplemental regulations, which is confusing because the section we just looked at, 746, is also called supplemental regulations. Additionally, this is where those red line sections were moved from the performance standards, but the content is unchanged for ENA. And then this part, we added a little note. It's kind of a warning note that if a license is revoked, it would require a new license, but because we have a cap of 50 licenses, one may not be available. And then finally, the definition of owner occupied has not been included in our code previously. We do have a definition for owner. So owner occupied here means that at least one owner of a property lives on that property as their primary residence for at least 9 months out of any 12-month period. And then as noted, the planning commission found that the text amendment approval criteria were met. One commissioner was absent, but they unanimously recommended approval for 746N and for 85. But because they haven't had the opportunity to review the definition for owner occupied, staff recommends that this gets sent back to the planning commission for the recommendation. And that's all I have.
Great. Thanks, Angie. Anybody have any questions for Angie?
Quick question. Will the new definition likely disqualify any of the existing license holders, you think? Knowingly?
The only situation when it's an issue is if there's an ADU. So there is one that I'm aware of that would be an issue, yeah.
Question.
There may be more, but there's one that I am aware of.
Not significant change for those already held licenses.
No.
Right.
Okay, thanks, Angie.
Actually, yeah, we can get a motion to table.
Okay,
Move to send this back to the planning commission. Is that what the-
Yeah, I think so.
second. Motion made by Terry, seconded by Russ. Roll call, please.
Counselors Scrambley,
Aye.
Crowder,
Aye.
Reagan,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Scoville,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. There we go, thank you. It takes us to item number 8, which is related to resolution number 2503, amending the fees and charges for short-term rental licenses. Preston?
All right, yeah, thank you, Mayor. So, in line with what Angie was just talking about, before you, the resolution amending the fees and charges for short-term rental licenses, as she explained, it needs to be enacted separately via resolution. So most notably is the introduction of an inspection fee and a re-inspection fee if required. And then the new license fee has been upped in comparison to the renewal fee. You'll see that in the resolution there. So those are the amounts that staff is proposing. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Quick curiosity, what does the inspection look for? Is it just to confirm number of bedrooms or something?
Inspections, right, to ensure that the performance standards are met. There's a whole list of, I think they're listed as performance standards, right, Angie?
Yeah, there's like life safety considerations and addressing considerations and information or if they need to get in touch with the local contact,
Yeah,
do things.
come renewal time, Mike spends a lot of time on inspections, Jordan here shortly, but just in the last month or so, they've spent a lot of time on inspections and re-inspections, so.
The new section in the previous, I guess, resolution or was requiring that the owner have an available agent within 20 minutes. Is that part of what's verified in the inspection?
Yeah, that's verified on the application itself, but they need to list that person in information that's on site.
That's good.
Yes, other questions? Okay, I suppose we need a motion to approve.
I move we approve the new fee schedule for resolution number 2503, amending the fees and charges for short-term rental licenses.
Second.
All right, motion by Josie, seconded by Russ. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Scrambley,
Aye.
Crowder,
Aye.
Reagan,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Scoville,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to item number 9, Ridgway Area Chamber of Commerce presentation on marketing and promotion activities and banking status. Got Mishi here. Hopefully Ashley's on her way.
I don't have the video.
Yeah, I think maybe-
She would be here, let's see.
I think we're running a little ahead of schedule, which is
Moving right along.
So if, all right, by you, Mayor, maybe perhaps we can jump forward to, because Tara's not here either, or Ariel, maybe we jump to the notice of award for.
All right, let's tackle that. We'll do, item number 13, notice of award for planning and design services for the Beaver Creek Diversion Restoration Project. Take it away, Preston.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So this one was a little late in getting you all sent the staff report yesterday, but it took quite some time to get the materials ready. So for background's sake, the town issued an RFP for planning and design engineering services for the Beaver Creek Diversion Restoration Project in early January. Proposals were due on January 30th. The RFP sought qualified and experienced consultants to submit proposals for design and conceptual development of the Beaver Creek Diversion Restoration Project, which we're all very well aware of now. The town received 3 proposals. First one from Engineering Analytics, Inc., second one from Respect Company, LLC, and the third one from Wright Water Engineers, Inc. Last Thursday, all 3 project teams were interviewed by a panel consisting of Joanne Fagan, longtime engineer for Ridgway, myself, we had Clinton Witten, who's the Colorado Emergency Watershed Protection Program Manager with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and we also had Joshua Godwin, Project Manager with the Finance Section of the Colorado Water Conservation Board. It's important to note, as you see in the memo before you, that the amounts that were proposed were wildly different in some ways, and that was largely because of the different scopes and approaches. And I can add more specificity on that towards the end of the spiel here, or if you guys have questions, but I want to point that out now. So again, different proposed approaches, proposed scopes, timelines, exclusions, and assumptions. So a lot goes into those proposals. Based on the quality of the proposals and the quality of the interviews that took place, and checked against the selection criteria that was outlined in the RFP, the interview team that I just mentioned unanimously recommends that the town council award the planning and design engineering services for the subject project to Respect Company, LLC. Respect is capable of addressing the challenges of this project with their expertise in channel stability, ditch and diversion improvements, and water rights permitting. Their project team expressed that they can meet the deliverable date of May 2025 for final design that was identified in the RFP. However, they also expressed that to properly provide an alternatives analysis and vet the alternatives with the town, which was called for in the RFP, they would recommend providing the final design by the end of July 2025, and then immediately moving forward with construction to complete the project by the end of the year. Immediately following the interviews, the panel talked about a lot of different things, but discussed narrowing the scope of the chosen consultant by designing the required access road improvements and ditch piping separately. So taking it out of the scope of work for the selected consultant. After discussions with Alan Leak, who's the principal in charge with Respect, and based on the desire to complete the design and construction of the road improvements and the ditch piping in the next several months before the high snow melt and summer runoff events this summer, staff held a number of conversations with Alan and the Respect representatives and negotiated to modify several pieces of their proposal and cost estimate, which is what you have before you in the packet. That cost estimate is, I think it's labeled as attachment 1, and the notice of award for your consideration is attachment 2. So the recommendation is that the design, beyond Respect being awarded the contract for the subject services, recommendation is that the design of the access road improvements and ditch piping be taken on separately, which would be, the staff has been led to believe, less expensive and would allow the Respect project team to concentrate on the diversion. Staff is working to hopefully utilize technical assistance through the NRCS team to complete road design or design for the road access road improvements or cross sections of some sort. And then once we have a design, we can prepare request for bids or request for quotes, whatever, whatever the state and feds would agree with. And solicit bids from qualified and experienced contractors to construct the improvements to the road and lay that pipe in the ditch, the first 2,000 feet of the ditch. And the aim would be to have that work completed by, I am making this up, but sometime in May or June before, or probably right around the same time that we get a final design from Respect. And so, you know, that's all perfect world in our head. But that is what we are recommending at this point. If the NRCS isn't able to come through with the members on their team, if they're too busy or something like that, can't take on the design of the access road improvements, I think we will need to do some additional surveying maybe as part of that. Joanne and Ron will be able to do that work.
Great.
So, it's a
No,
lot.
I like the
That
sound.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But a lot's transpired in the last week, so
That's,
happy to answer any questions. And Joanne is on if y'all have any questions for her, technical type questions.
okay.
So I have one, I think you might have already answered it, but I wasn't sure I understood it. So the design for the ditch and piping to be done separately would be through a separate bid process, or does that, so it doesn't necessarily get awarded to this contractor
Correct.
as a follow-on
Correct.
task, right?
Yes, the answer to your question is yes, and the cost estimate that's in the packet reflects that part of the scope has been taken out.
So the difference between the first bid and this current bid reflects generally what you expect to pay or less for that.
That, and there were a couple of other items based on what they proposed that, you know, we felt, the team felt that we did not need.
And that particular task isn't necessary in order, in time order before or after this, it can be done in parallel.
The access road improvements,
Does that have to be done first or can it be done in parallel?
it would certainly be nice. That was the impetus for talking it through, to have all of that done by the time that, or, you know, in conjunction at least of the design being taken place by Respect and their team being up there doing the stuff that they need to do. And having it all done prior to a contractor hauling all their equipment up there and giving them a much easier time to get their, you know, track hose and other major equipment up there. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Other questions? Any questions in the audience, either here on Zoom?
I'll move to issue notice of award for planning and design engineering services for the Beaver Creek Diversion Restoration Project to Respec, R-A-S-P-E-C, sounds like a cheer, Company LLC, at a not to exceed amount of $568,750.
Second.
All right, motion by Terry, second by Beth. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Scrambley,
Aye.
Kroger,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Scoville,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Great.
Terry,
Oh,
sorry. Terry, I think you're thinking of Aretha Franklin.
Yes, I was thinking that too.
I didn't second that part. Yeah, the motion, not this. No, stop.
all right. On that note, I'd like to more specifically note just how critically important this particular motion is and the action at hand. This is, I mean, they keep saying over the last year or so how often we're using the word unprecedented, and we need a new word for that. But this, what we experienced at the diversion last summer was way beyond unprecedented, like nothing anyone has ever seen since the town was founded, really. And so to get this major project in line and proposal approved. And, I love the plan for getting the road improvements done and the piping in place as soon as possible. It's really great to see. So thank you to the staff for all the hard work on that. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Preston. And Joanne, thank you, Ron, for us, please. I just wanted to note just how critically important this is. And it's great to see it happen. Hopefully any money that's coming from the feds will still be coming. All right, so that moves us on to, well, let's go back, right? Since Ash Perkins is in the house now and Tara is here, so we'll go back to item number 9, Ridgway Area Chamber of Commerce presentation on marketing and promotion activities financial status. Ashley, welcome.
Hey, sorry, I was behind. I was not
It's okay.
expecting that. I was like, 6 o'clock, okay.
No need to apologize. We just were moving right along.
It looks like it.
Hang on one sec, I'll share the screen so folks on Zoom can see.
Awesome, thank you. Alrighty, so this is our 2024 annual report. I'm Ashley Perkins. I'm the director for the Chamber of Commerce, for those of you online. We're excited to be here to share in all of our successes. So, yeah, so I guess we can just start on page 2. I kind of have a little bit more to begin with, but I suppose this is a good place to start, right?
Right, one sec. Is that page 2?
You can go to the next one, President Review, so that's our former president. So this year we had a great board of directors from various sectors of the business community, including those from the professional services industry, the downtown storefront owner, a strategic analyst, financial advisor, and nonprofit director. We continue to work with incredible staff, welcoming Joomla Design Studios, which is on the next page, in 2024 as our web developer, and continue to work with Sprout Design Studio or Sprout Design for our annual report design, which you see here. Our ACC would like to thank all of our staff and volunteers that we worked with this past year and members of the team that transitioned from our organization. We said goodbye to John and Tanya and Sarah as our board of directors, and we also said goodbye to Catherine. Next page. In 2024, you see our active website users went up 13% over this year with 72,000 active users at an average engagement time of 1 minute and 14 seconds. RidgwayColorado.com continues to be the first result for keyword Ridgway Colorado on Google, Bing, Yahoo, and more. Go to the next slide. Our new top 10 list shifted from True Grit being the #1 search when searching for Ridgway, Colorado. This year, we're proud to show that Welcome to Ridgway, Colorado, Orvis Hot Springs, and Things to Do moved up to the top 3 for search. Ridgway residents also accessed the website 41%, almost more this past year than in previous years. You'll see that in all the other areas that we did track, everything else was also looking up. If you look more closely, I think our lowest on that chart is 27% increase. So everything was 27% or above. It looks like a lot. Okay, next slide, sorry. Once again, the Ridgway Area Chamber organized our community cleanup day alongside with Alpine Bank's e-waste day and the town's cleanup in the spring. To support print costs and environmentally sound standards, we did not print a visitor guide this year. We did we chose to do a biannual visitor guide last year. And this year we decided to do the Gravel Adventure Field Guide in place of that. The Gravel Adventure Field Guide was a project that was made possible through an OEDIT grant that we were awarded for $34,500 in 2023. We celebrated our launch party at the Colorado Boy Depot, then hosted Townie Tuesday gravel rides throughout the summer. These took place the first Tuesday of each month with an average of 20 riders. This helped to support local businesses, including Active Venue Hangout as part of our promotion. 9,000 copies were created and distributed from Southwest Colorado to the Front Range, and more guides are available for purchase through the publisher online. Okay.
Ash, before you go on, I don't know if I missed it, but can you explain the gap in your performance in the previous pages? That there's 2 different graphs.
Sure, yeah, well, I can only go so far. When it was explained to me, yeah. Apparently, according to Catherine at that time, the Meta business suite was down, but I can definitely get some more information regarding that, but that's from my recollection.
That's what she said at the meeting at the time,
What was that?
the Meta Business Suite.
Oh, for 6 weeks?
Yeah, that's what Catherine was their independent contractor who was doing all that. That's what she told us at the meetings. So
Okay. I'm just curious.
that doesn't mean they weren't being visited, it's just tracked.
Gotcha. Just wondered what.
Thank you for that. Once again, the Ridgway Area Chamber of Commerce operated the visitor center at seven days a week. We had incredible staff and volunteers. We do weekend staff, just to make sure we have people kind of staying consistent and available. And then from Monday through Friday, we did volunteer based. Sometimes I would fill in. But our visitation increased at 50%. And we run from Memorial Day weekend to mid-October, and that put us at about 1,500 visitors for this year. Oh, you can go back again, sorry. The Ridgway Area Chamber is proud to once again coordinate the Youth Volunteer and Career Fair for our 6th year. We partner, last year we started partnering with the Voyager Youth Program, and also the students included as well. And we did have 30 organizations, profits, nonprofits, and services show to that event. We hosted it at the gymnasium in April 2024. I would like to mention that one of our students actually received an internship through that fair with Homegrown Pathways last year. Okay. For our online print and media, we did 3 different print medias this year. We did the, as you saw, the Ridgway West End Montrose Gravel Adventure Field Guidebook. We did our 5-fold downtown walking map, and we also did our Ridgway Invites You coupon campaign at the end of the summer to support shop local efforts, excuse me. Also, our social media increased by 41%, as you can see there, and continues to increase. We are now over 6,000 followers on Instagram and over 1,200 followers on Facebook, excuse me. We had another very successful Noel night. I think probably our best that we've done since we took it over 3 years ago. I will say 90% of the businesses that I've spoken with said that they had a huge turnout, so I'm very, very grateful for that. We brought back a tree lighting, a winter parade. We did professional photos with Santa at the park. We helped showcase the Railroad Museum by having train rides, the History Museum with the Living Nativity scene. We had 57 businesses participate in our additional promotion and marketing opportunity, highlighting discounts and specials offered that night. And also we had quite a few sponsors for that event as well. Regarding our statewide promotion and off-peak season marketing strategy, I attended for the 3rd time the Colorado Tourism Organization's Governor's Conference. It's a 3-day conference where I get to meet and greet with tourism and marketing professionals in my field. It's a great opportunity. I get to engage with the tourism office personally. I got invited to their table last year. It was really cool. Some of the big wigs over there. So that's a really fun event for me, and I feel like we get a lot out of it. Me especially in this position. Our Gravel Adventure Field Guide partnership that was awarded through EBIT for, again, $34,500 to help help that project take off. Lastly, we were awarded, the Colorado Tourism Destination Blueprint Program this year, and some of you were on the core team, so you're pretty familiar with that. We did a core team development, had I think about 3 different meetings that discussed kind of top priorities of what the community's needs were. And then we followed up with a full day workshop in October with a lot of additional community members in attendance at the tech event. That also came with a pre-destination assessment for us for the first time. Ridgway was able to do a destination assessment. We'll continue to have that data available to us following the program, so I'm really excited about that. I'm still working with the CTO with 100 hours of free consultation as well, as I meet every other week with my mentor, the CTO. We also did 2 surveys through this program. One was a tourism sentiment survey to get a gauge on how the community felt about tourism. And the other was a resident survey. Resident survey, excuse me, was how the community felt about tourism, and the tourism survey was about how the tourism industry felt what they were doing. Okay. Once again, we worked with the Colorado Creative Corridor. We're one of 6 communities in this program. It's a beautiful effort. They have kind of struggled off and on, not just Ridgway, but communities outside of us are struggling with their capacity for people willing to wear many hats, as a lot of us do in this community. So they did put that on pause at the end of the summer last year. They're not really sure how it's gonna look next year. We're going to be kind of doing an overhaul. They're looking to hire a new contractor through this program. But what we did accomplish was develop a Colorado corridor updated guide. And it does not show Ridgway on there, but Andrea at Carbondale did give me those guidebooks at our tourism conference. Next page. The Ridgway Area Chamber would like to acknowledge that we are membership based, but we do seek to support the local community, local business community as a whole. It's just one part of being a natural chamber organization is that we are membership based. We happen to be publicly funded, so we're so proud to support the greater Ridgway community at the same time. These are just some of the things that kind of we outlined for both local business support and our member support, including our bi-weekly newsletter or bi-monthly e-blast newsletter that goes out to about 2,000 contacts. We have about a 40% open rate, which is pretty great, I think, this year. Our member of the month program has been very successful. Townie Tuesdays were a huge hit last year, and I think it'll just continue to grow. The Townie Tuesdays, again, were just spearheaded off of that gravel adventure field that we developed last year. We continue to do shop local campaigns. We did 2 last year. We hosted a Ridgway Local Bucks presentation at the Decker Room in August. We had our partners in Montrose come and do a presentation on that. If you were there. We're just exploring ways to get people engaged in shopping in the community as opposed to shopping online or going elsewhere. We did execute Ridgway Invite You coupon campaign where we had about 30 businesses participate, and we kind of had like a little coupon where we trip off the coupons, and we printed 1,000 of those and distributed them to Telluride, Montrose, Uray, and beyond. So, but as far as Silverton, Durango, Grand Junction, we're still kind of gathering feedback on like how that worked for businesses. Maybe she's received 1 or 2, but I'm not really certain how successful that's been. But we're looking to kind of see how those things go as trial runs until we can figure out some things that will work. We did have to postpone, unfortunately, our member and volunteer appreciation dinner. We're going through a lot of organization changes. We're onboarding a lot of new board members. It's been report time, so we did decide to move it to the spring in order for a more successful event for our members who we appreciate. Regarding our financial management piece, we took in around 122,000 in lodging tax this year. That's roughly a 23% increase, partly due to the increase in lodging tax per the ballot last year. We didn't receive the reallocation of that lodging tax until April. So April to December is when we see those heightened numbers, and those numbers went up about 35%. Outside of lot funding, RICC's income was just under 55,000, including our grant funds from the Gravel Guide, from OEDIT through the Gravel Guide project, our membership and sponsorships. We continue to work closely with Middleton Accounting for our financial management and how we manage our resources. Okay, and finally, we're excited for our successes of 2024, but we're very thrilled about this upcoming year. We are onboarding new board members, as I mentioned, creating a digital commercial campaign, continuing to enhance our website, hosting quarterly business roundtables, developing the new visitor guide set to be released in the spring. We're organizing a new Mardi Gras pub crawl coming soon, and so much more. So, and a warm welcome to our new board members, Madison with Voyager Youth Program and Nicole with Taco Del Mar. We hope you keep an eye out for all the new and exciting things we have coming your way this year, and thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Ash.
Thank you.
Questions for Ash?
Do you know, I should know this, but do you know when the digital marketing campaign for the airport is going to go live? Or?
We're expecting early fall. That's the goal. We're shooting for October 1, and then it'll go through the rest of the year. And we kind of manage how we're going to use that commercial throughout, but that's what we have for the grant at least.
That's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
I've got a few questions.
Of course.
So I'm showing that your lodging tax income was 122,281 in the records.
Yeah.
And the money you spent on actual advertising and promotion was 47,834. Do you feel that's an adequate enough amount spent for promotions, given that huge windfall?
Wait, do you see that on the line item?
I saw it on the, on your advertising and promotion, total expenses.
Yeah, 80/10.
47,834.
Sorry, I don't have that in front of me.
It's on the budget on page,
Page 13 of the annual report.
Is there a way to zoom in on that, Preston?
It's pretty blurry.
It just shows that the lodging tax income was the 122K, and then below it on expenses, line item 8010. Your total spent on advertising and promotion was 47,834.56.
That's a great question, Kevin, and I'll have to take a closer look at that. I don't have an answer for you right this moment.
it's just a general question in terms of the amount spent. If you feel that's adequate for $122,000 worth of tax money. That's all.
Can I interject for a
Yeah.
second? Is that okay? Well, part of that is that the $122,000 is the budget to also pay for her time, which
To do the,
that is a majority of that money. Where she, I mean, without her, none of it is happening. Because the chamber membership alone will not pay for an employee. So that's where that difference is.
I would assume when you probably don't track your hours separately, like for knowing if your hours are spent on lot fund advertising time versus chamber advertising time.
I do have that information that I can provide to the
Cause that would,
council. I don't
really-
have that.
'cause that would be really interesting, because I think that would actually show the board a lot of how, you know, like I agree, like 122K came in, and it looks like only 47 spent, but obviously your time is a huge amount of like your marketing. But that would give us an idea too of like how much of the lot funds are spent on your time making the advertising campaigns and implementing them.
Right,
Makes
yeah,
sense.
I have a spreadsheet that breaks it down to events and promotion and marketing and all sorts of things. But yeah, thank you very much for bringing that to my attention, because I know that that's very useful. It wasn't really asked of me at the beginning of this journey, so I'm just kind of,
I'm glad you've been tracking it. That's
yeah.
helpful.
I acknowledge it's time and the effort and the energy put into it. It's also an opportunity cost.
Mhm.
I actually have a question for John as we go into this. I feel like we're kind of blending this agenda item with the
With the next
next
one.
agenda item, so I don't know how we exactly want to approach that, so we're being clear.
Yeah, I would say at this point, why don't we just keep our questions
Our presentation, yeah.
to the details in the presentation. Your question is fine, and any other questions about the details in the presentation for us? I had one question. The Destination Blueprint Program, which I was really excited about, and we had a couple great meetings, but I haven't heard another peep about it in several months.
Yeah, we're about to roll into the next phase, and I realize that, and I'm not sure if you're on the, I was trying to reach out to the core team. There are a few things that has happened this week. I've reached out to discuss with town just a potential economic development opportunity, and I followed up with the BRC group in regards to that, and I was planning on, the next step was following up with the core team regarding our destination assessment up to this point, as well as survey results, and also just to kind of check and let you know what's been going on in the meantime. So I
Okay.
apologize for the delay on that.
Good to know that next steps are happening.
They are happening, yes.
Good. Anyone else have questions on the presentation?
Yes. Oh, go ahead, Beth.
Go ahead, Polly. I'm still formulating my thought anyway.
Yeah, I had a question about the number of emails going out. Do you guys routinely go through those email lists and blast lists to make sure they're not just going to bot accounts, spam accounts, anything like that? I saw that there was 40% open rate. But I'm just curious if you do in fact go through those lists to make sure they're actually going to people.
They are actually going to people, and we did just transition into using MailChimp, and I did work with Daniel to assure that we were, all of our addresses were correct. Daniel's our tech person, and they are going to real people, Polly. They're not coming back as bots. We haven't been able to increase our email outreach quite yet, but we are working to do that early quarter 22.
40% open rate is incredible.
That's really good.
That's.
Yeah.
There was, Polly, I know one of the meetings I attended this summer for RAC, the marketing person that they were talking, that was at the meeting was saying that I think they'd gone through and eliminated, I don't know, what it was, 300 or 500, there was a few hundred bot accounts on there, and they were able to like identify those and get rid of them. And so I think that the current email list that the RAC is using is pretty darn accurate.
My question was around, your proposed budget for 2025 versus your expenses that you had in 2024. I noticed you had 2,000 in your proposed budget for events in 2025, but your line item sheet notes that almost 4,000 was spent on Noel night in 2024. Are those discrepancies you're expecting to get out of funds from membership? Is that the
No,
difference?
it's more sponsorship. Our income, our sponsorship almost balanced out our expenses for
Okay.
our events, and that would have been through Noel night specifically last year.
And then sort of the same deal for the visitor center, you're actually asking for almost $800 less than your expenses were in 2024. So again, is that being balanced out by membership money or?
No, visitor center costs come from lodging tax, and the visitor center had a leak last year, so we're just readjusting to address that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, no, it's a great question.
I don't expect anything to get cheaper in 2025, so that was
Right.
Hope there won't be a water leak.
Other questions? From council, or are there any questions online or in the audience here?
And one more question. Is there any plan to grow the chamber's raised portion of their budget? Quick back of the envelope calculation is between the lot tax money and grants, that's 90% of the chamber's operating budget, which is what it is, and that's what you were allotted. But are there plans to shift that percentage at all?
My goal would be to increase our membership this year and enhance those benefits, so that would be my first step. I am kind of new in the whole going to shake hands and asking for money, but I'm not below that, so potentially something that we could look at for 2025.
And I've really been impressed this last year, going to all their meetings, just hearing about all the different grants Ashley's gone after and been awarded. That's, for someone who's working on grants for a different project, that's a lot, it's a lot to find the grants, apply to the grants, and then to be awarded as many as you were. It's pretty cool. You guys have done some really neat projects with the grant money.
Actually, maybe in here, maybe you said it, but how many paid members are in the chamber?
Right now, we have currently around 60.
60. And what percentage of that is of the businesses in town?
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, I would say 95% of them are businesses from the local community, a few individuals, and maybe one of your rate left.
He means how many, what percentage of all businesses in Ridgway? How many businesses are there in Ridgway? I mean, does anyone know?
Well, that's hard to say because we don't issue business licenses.
True, yeah,
anymore,
the
so-
town would know that.
Yeah.
And I would like to mention that we did update our local business listing recently, and we're really proud of that. It was something that was on our docket too, that we're just trying to get to. I'm trying to get to everything, I apologize. But we do have an updated business listing and shop local page on the ridgwaycolorado.com website, and then in the next couple of weeks, my goal with our web developer is to create a submission link, which like the events landing page for new businesses to easily add their business to our website, so we can just easier streamline that. I would say there's probably, give or take, around 200 businesses in the Ridgway community. Probably more creatives and people that work from home.
It's not just bricks and mortar.
Yeah, definitely not.
Other questions?
With your net income of 27 grand from last year's budget, do you have any special projects in mind looking forward to the next year in terms of what you might use that money for? Is that any plans with that?
We don't have any plans at the moment for that. We're just now kind of going through our budget review process as of January, seeing how 2024 ended with the reallocation of the lodging tax. But I don't know if you've been here previously, we've often struggled. So we're trying to be cognizant of our finances at this point in time, and we'll let you know.
do you anticipate any small business, assistance, things like that with some of this profit that you're putting away?
Personally, I've been thinking about that.
Yep.
You want
Other
to say
questions?
about that? I would just, on that note, I would have personally a comment that I might be completely off, but maybe not. Since that is lodging tax, taxpayer money, to give support to individual businesses might not be the right thing to do
Yeah.
from
That
that
would be
perspective. But rather,
I
that
agree.
gives us a little room, that $26,000 gives us a little room to get creative on whole support of the business community and really hammer out some higher level campaigns, which we didn't have that money before.
Right, yeah, I agree. A lot of
So,
fun should be-
this allows us an opportunity to dream a little bigger. And the grant that we have for the airport marketing, it's gonna run out. And airport marketing is what, $600 a month? So we're gonna very quickly start needing money for that. So to have a little bit of wiggle room on the bottom line, is a very positive thing.
Correct. Thank you.
Any other questions either here in the room or on Zoom? And again, if you're on Zoom and you don't know, you can't find the raise hand button or something, just feel free to unmute yourself. Tara, here in the room, go ahead.
Got it.
Tara, will you come up to the
Thank
mic
you.
so they can hear you?
I just had a question about going back to the advertising budget. There was a line item that was the OEDA grant expense. That was something in the neighborhood of
6,000.
What was it? 26,000 of the 43, was that right? I'm just going to read what I saw on the screen. And so I'm just curious, what is that? Was that the gravel side?
That probably was the flow.
Yeah, so just wanting to get clear on. So, okay, so 26,000, so that leaves about 21,000 and that was spent on things like the gravel guide and that came in through the grant. I just wanted to get clear on that. Is that accurate? Okay.
I actually do have a question about the gravel guide. I know it says line item, I think 8023. The grant expense is that $25,000. Did you get a grant for that?
Yeah, the gravel guy was like a $35,000.
Yeah, it was earlier in the report.
Yeah. I'm just wondering where that is in the P&L.
Look at the piano.
Well, the grant was awarded in 2023, so I think it was reflected in the 2023 P&L, not 2024.
Part of, yeah, that's what it is. Part of the grant expenditures probably were, sorry, and I apologize for saying it this way. But paid in 2023, and then the rest left over was carried over for 2024.
Okay, I guess, thanks.
Do we have any way that we measured our efficacy on that grant? Were we asked to collect any data on that? I know we had our Townie Tuesdays, but I'm just curious. Do we have any data?
I don't think I don't know if the chamber is tracking.
Like where they were distributed in the world.
I don't know.
Find them.
No, I was just curious if there was any sort of efficacy numbers.
It would be interesting if there was a way to track that.
I don't know how you would do it.
I've seen it, I've certainly seen the guide all over the place and the company that makes those guides is pretty popular. Assuming that they're cut widely distributed. I don't know how we track that.
I know somewhere on the East Coast, I had friends come in and they went bike riding for 3 days and they used that guide every day I was with them. So,
Guide's amazing. It's really.
Yeah, it's really nice. I don't like it all. It looks really nice.
I had somebody ask me, just kind of thinking off the cuff here, on the, page that talks about the spring 2024, 4,000 brochures created and delivered to various visitor centers around Colorado. Somebody asked me if they were distributed to local lodging as well, those brochures. Were the 4,000 brochures that you had printed in the spring, they were distributed to a lot of visitor centers around Colorado, but were they all also distributed locally to hotels and lodging here?
You're talking about.
The creative corridor.
The gravel guides.
The creative corridor is in a
Oh,
different.
creative corridor,
Yeah.
they were not distributed to. But that is,
Who was in charge of distribution for the creative corridor ones?
Carbondale.
Carbondale was?
I think they've always been in Chicago.
Yeah.
Well, not distribution to this. This
Sorry?
distribution to the community, then the community is in charge of local.
Gotcha. Any other questions? Okay, so,
Many windows.
yeah, so this is their presentation. I guess that takes us on to item number 10 to discuss direction on tourism promotion going forward for this year and beyond. And I'm not sure, Preston, you can start that discussion, of course.
Yep, I'm happy to, sir. So, piggybacking on the presentation we just heard, you all are asked to provide direction on how the town should proceed in implementing tourism promotion and marketing services. So staff specifically is requesting direction on whether to renew the professional services agreement with the Ridgway Area Chamber of Commerce for 2025 or to explore other options. Staff has prepared a new agreement with or between the town and the chamber for your consideration this evening. But the staff report before you has a number of options for you all to kind of think through, consider as well. And a few of those options include a competitive solicitation process at some point. Right? So given where we're at in the year, staff would advise option 3 as being perhaps the best way to go, again, considering where we're at in the year and considering what the chamber's done to this point to plan for 2025. And that would provide the chamber with a contract for a 1-year term, and the town would hold a competitive solicitation process in late summer, early fall months in conjunction with the budget process and planning for 2026, if that makes sense. So I'm just trying to help provide some advice as we get into this conversation. There's other options for consideration in the memo and other options to think about that aren't there in the staff report. So with that, happy to answer any questions as we go.
Great, thanks, Preston. And we're just looking at the people in the room and the number of people on Zoom. I imagine there's a lot of us here tonight that want to make comments about this.
I have a question from council.
Yeah, go ahead.
To staff. What does staff base their recommendation not to just renew, not to go with option 1? What's the impetus behind looking at other options?
Yeah, that's a good question, fair question. I think a lot of variables there. It's no secret, a lot of temperature in the room. So, and I think we're going to start talking about some of that. So I think that's a variable. And the other thing is the chamber has been doing tourism promotion on behalf of the town for quite some time now. I was asking John if he could recall, I think you about 8 to 10 years, something like that.
Yeah, 6, 8, 10, something like that.
I think the tail end of the staff report talks about, I don't know if it talks specifically about the procurement policies we have in place, but it would be financially prudent to hold something competitive, which we haven't done in a number of years, as we've just renewed contract after contract. I think there was a 3-year agreement between 2021 and 2024, something to that effect, and the one in place now is a 1-year term. So, not trying to be long-winded, but there's variables that, you heard me say this a few times, I'm always in favor of competitive solicitation processes.
So to follow up on the question, is tourism promotion the main, in staff's opinion, the main attribute of the chamber? And the reason I ask that is like, the preparation for next meeting, I went and Googled what the Chamber of Commerce do. It's a lot more than just tourism promotion.
Right.
Advocacy, networking, resources, community improvement, so there's a lot of, and I looked at the mission statement of the chamber, and it does reflect tasks other than just tourism.
Right.
So I'm just curious, is tourism promotion the main point of contention?
The point of the
The
tourism,
lot funds, I think.
it's the lot funds.
Yeah.
The lot funds are designated for tourism promotion, so that's why tourism promotion is mentioned.
So I guess that begs the question, John, how do you want to proceed? Do you want council to lay out kind of what we're thinking and then take public comment? Do you want to take public comment first?
I would,
Because I have some answers to Terry's things, but I don't know what order we want to do it.
yeah, I think we should start with public comment. I think we should let the chamber go first, if they have anything they want to add, argue on their account. And then just open it up for people in the room to give their thoughts.
I think that's a great approach, Mayor. If I can say one more thing, just to make sure everyone's clear. So let's go back to fundamentals for a second. Town has a lodging tax and gets a revenue from that lodging tax. And with that, currently now 50% is earmarked specifically for tourism promotion and marketing services. So we have a responsibility to use those funds wisely. And for a number of years, I said this before, the town has contracted with the chamber to do that. So the chamber has a role functioning as a chamber of commerce, but as an independent contractor working for the town of Ridgway to utilize these lodging tax dollars for all the things that Ashley just talked about in her presentation. So does that make sense? And I know you all understand that. There's other people in the room and there's people on Zoom. I just want to make sure the fundamentals are clear.
Could everybody on Zoom hear Preston? Everybody couldn't, please speak up. Sounds like they could. Okay, Terry, you got some thoughts? And please, I need you to come up here so everybody can hear you.
I just want to ask a point of order for Preston and to your Mayor Clark, is there a time you'd like me to share the remarks that I prepared, just in reflection on helping the chamber prepare their professional services agreement?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
I think we should start with that, unless you have anything you want to add for that, Ash? Mishi?
Yeah.
I was going to give you guys,
Sorry, I didn't introduce myself to the people on Zoom before. Mishi Countryman, I'm the interim president of the board of the chamber. I just want to point out, because I was curious, I went back to the ballot question that the taxpayers answered to. And it points directly, and it literally says on here, 50% of the proceeds of the tax to be used for tourism promotion and economic development. Not just tourism promotion and marketing, economic development. And that's where the chamber also can shine. So I wanted to point that out.
thanks, Mishi. Go ahead, Jared.
So last year, the council asked me to work with the chamber to develop a one-year contract with measurable deliverables.
And in case anybody online doesn't know.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll introduce myself.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. My name is Tara Wick. I work for the town of Ridgway as the Community Initiatives Facilitator. Part of my role is broadly community and economic vitality initiatives that I lead out for the town. So I've been, well, I did have some leave this year. I wasn't able to work as closely with the chamber as I would otherwise have liked. I did work with them at the beginning of the year to develop the professional services agreement for this year, and at the direction of the council, we shaped that with some more measurable deliverables so that we could have something to look at when we ask the question, what's the performance been like? And that while Mishi's correct that the lodging tax does include language around economic development, the professional services agreement is quite specific around what we have asked of the chamber in the past and moving forward, and it's very specific to tourism promotion. Ridgway Fuse, Creative Main Street is one of the, we don't receive lot tax funds, we receive general funds, but that's an initiative of the town as well around economic development, just for context. So the main, it's wonderful to be able to hear the broad variety of things that the chamber is doing around community engagement, events, and that kind of thing, how it's not part of the contract that the town has with them. And we're quite specific that the town's funds, because they are public dollars, should not be intermingled with membership services, because that's a different part of the chamber's work. So the main focus of the professional services agreement is around the website, maintaining kind of a front shingle for the town of Ridgway that's beautiful, engaging, up to date. And you'll see the professional services agreement is in your packet. Social media and newsletter. And then last year we talked about printed and digital campaigns, printed and digital pieces. Printed pieces actually is what we talked about, running the visitor center, and then also being in coordination with the other activities going on in town so that, so that we're coordinated and not kind of duplicating efforts and that kind of thing. We also asked the chamber to conduct a survey for the first time this year so that we could get direct community feedback that wasn't anecdotal, where we could hear directly from members and residents how they're using the chamber services, how they're valuing chamber services, what they might like to see improved. So that's what you'll see in the scope of the professional services agreement. I worked really closely with them to develop this. I feel like I got feedback from most of the board members that they appreciated having that kind of guidance and structure, and some measurable deliverables that we co-created together that had to do with website visits and had to do with length of time on the website and followers on social media and that kind of thing. The first deliverable that we laid out is that the website is up to date. I do appreciate Ashley updating it recently. However, we see some room for improvement there. As recently as about a week and a half ago, there were multiple businesses and things on there that had been closed for over a year. That was quite out of date. And I had, there's also been some real improvements on the website. There's now an events calendar where anybody in the community can list their event. That's a huge improvement that wasn't there before. And I'm happy to hear that there's some effort towards, there's some plans in the future for businesses to be able to list themselves. I do have a concern a little bit, but I just want to bring to the chamber's attention. It's something we can work out, I think, with the chamber. But when I first started, the chamber was membership only, and that was the only businesses, for the most part, that they had links to and full profiles on their website. So I developed a business inventory on the few side because we needed one. And so now the chamber's developed one, so now we kind of have two. So I do have some concerns for duplication of services and inefficiencies there. And I have some concern around this, around the whether or not the staff at the chamber can actually update their website, or whether they need to go with their contractor. So that's just been something that I've been in conversation with the chamber around. They had some wonderful social media pieces this year, I thought, and the newsletter was much improved. Ashley mentioned that Catherine, who they hired as their social media expert, left the organization earlier this year, and I don't think that position's being replaced, so I'm just curious to know the plan there, or if there's skills to do that work in-house. This year, one of the ways that we changed the professional services agreement was to move away from specific printed pieces, like a coupon, flyer or a brochure, but instead to think in terms of campaigns. So I just think that's a more modern way of thinking of marketing and communications for communities. So the current professional services agreement talks about 4 seasonal campaigns that are multimedia. So print, newspaper, radio, like social media, whatever kind of it takes. But I asked the chamber to provide a concept within Q1 of what those 4 seasonal promotion campaigns are going to look like, so that we have kind of a concept of what's coming for the year. And we'd like at least one of those to be in cooperation with the Ridgway Fuse Creative Main Street program, because we don't have the capacity to do that promotion in-house. And then, yeah, I think those are the main changes I kind of wanted to point out to you in terms of how the PSA has changed this year and kind of some of my observations from the year. So.
Okay, thanks, Tara. Yeah, I will agree that I've noticed over the course of the year that the website was pretty out of date various times. But working on that is a priority in the sense of. So at this point, I think I'd just like to open it up for people in the room or on Zoom. I think if there's a lot of people who'd like to speak on Zoom, please raise your hand and I'll try to alternate between the room and Zoom, depending on who wants to speak. So we'll start. Anybody else here in the room want to speak on this topic? see any hands yet, so anybody on Zoom? Maybe we don't have a lot of people on speak, they just want to listen. Tara, come on up.
I just forgot to mention one piece. So the survey that we asked the chamber to do was about getting community input around their services. While they did do something through the Destination Blueprint, which was an awesome initiative, we didn't get a chance to do a survey around people's perceptions of the chamber. So that wasn't completed this year.
Separate specific survey.
Yeah, specific surveys. So I would like to, that we put it in the PSA again this year, and if they're awarded, I'd like to see that happen.
Okay, that's a good point. So again, anybody?
I guess as the town liaison for the chamber, I should give it 2 cents. You know, I've been on the board here for about a year, and I have honestly spent many more hours with the chamber than I have with town council. They have a lot of meetings, a lot of things going on. I've been to both the, you know, or monthly board meetings, but also to lots of other meetings with Ashley and her Destination Blueprint coordinator, or with Tara, or, you know, with whatever. And I've been really blown away with how hard Ashley has worked this year to meet all those deliverables. And I know there's obviously a few things they came short on, not doing that specific survey and not getting the website done sooner in the year. But I think it's really important to point out all the deliverables they did hit, because I don't know if everyone's like read through the contract, but there were a lot of deliverables in this town contract, and Ashley has said nothing but great things about that. It was actually great for her to have like this, you know, sort of framework of goals to go for, and it's been really kind of cool to see the chamber be able to hit a lot of those deliverables this year. And I think for it being a first time contract, that's a good start, you know.
Mhm.
So I've just been impressed because I spent a lot of hours with the chamber this year, and the whole board has worked really hard, so lots of volunteer hours.
Good feedback. All right, I'm not here seeing any hands up. Mishi? I am seeing hands.
I wanted to quickly respond to Tara's question regarding replacing Catherine for social media work that she's done for us last year. We have in the budget, if you review it, there's an item for that, where we're looking to hire a part-time. We don't quite have the title figured out yet, but an assistant to Ashley, not hiring it out as a contractor per se, but a part-time employee in addition to her, that will take care of that component. And we're trying to keep it broad enough that that person, since they're getting paid from the lodging tax, will be able to help out in other areas as needed. We also, in the budget, divvied out, so it doesn't get intermingled, a certain percentage where that person spends time on membership services only versus the broad stroke of what's included in the PSA. Okay, does that answer your question, Tara?
Yeah, I think it's a future.
Okay. Anyone else? I just wanted to point out, we've gotten some letters about this, and Sue Hush actually sent one recently that I thought had a good comment in it on this topic. And she basically says, in my opinion, the town must decide what their actual goals. Is it increased visitation, care and feeding local businesses, assisting local nonprofits to continue their amazing work, giving locals terrific activities and bringing visitors to town for their events? All of this is likely part of that goal, and none of it requires a membership organization to leave it down. I think the main question we need to decide is what is our goal? I mean, as Mishi pointed out, the ballot initiative describes tourism promotion and economic development. Economic development is very broad. The town does a lot of economic development through Fuse and RIF and various other things. I think there's always more we could do. It's been 2024 was a tough year, and I'm afraid it's looking like 2025 is going to be even tougher in terms of economics and visitation. Everyone was hurting at the end of 2024 from what I talked to Telluride, pretty much all throughout the state. Some things stood out, but it was a tough year. So I think we need to figure out what our goals are and how best to address the needs that we have. So again, having heard no other comments from the public, either on Zoom or in the room, but having gotten some letters and some other feedback, it's back up here for us to discuss which.
I guess I have a response to this letter. I think it's a great question from Sue, absolutely. But I am concerned, like with her saying, if we would put 50% of that budget into the community grant fund, we can fund requests. That's not what lot was meant for. And so that's kind of my concern, is just making sure that that's very clear to the community, that the lot funds can't be used to fund nonprofit applications.
Well, they could if Ski Touring said, we need money to host this event that is going to bring people in. If the Ridgway Rendezvous says, we want money for this event that will bring people in, we wouldn't be just giving it to general fund for those organizations.
Exactly, under the economic development portion of that.
If baseball
Language.
wanted to host a tournament that brought people to town, it would be very much earmarked. That is not, we haven't proposed that, but that's what that would. Okay.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I actually want to raise. We're gonna have a tough conversation, and I want to say that we put the chamber in a really, really impossible position. We said, take public dollars and serve private businesses as a contractor who doesn't directly answer to the public. But also collect, then I asked you about like what money you were bringing in, and then also get private money while you're getting the public dollars and trying to serve everybody. That is a bad recipe to ask an organization to deal with. And that's something we have to reconcile.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Hi, guys. My name is Ashley King, and I was a citizen of Ridgway. Connected to what Beth is saying, I sat on the chamber board. I've been a chamber employee. I've certainly been involved with many chambers throughout the state and different economic development corporations in my tenure as a working professional. And I think that that sort of touches on what I think is the most unfortunate thing about the Ridgway Chamber situation, is that while the lot funds have been helpful and supportive in achieving many objectives, it's also essentially hog-tied this organization to the point that they have stopped developing their independent fundraising arm because they can't exclusively serve their membership. And when you look at sort of national statistics of chambers of commerce across the United States, it's extremely rare that their funding comes primarily from a government resource. You look at like large cities, like the city of San Diego funds a total of $10,000 towards marketing efforts for the San Diego Chamber of Commerce, because of course they are, their money maker is to serve their members. That's how they grow their revenues and are able to be self-sustaining and self-sufficient. It's sexier to have a member-based model where members are paying in to build their budget independently so that they can turn around and serve their members. The model that we currently have is one such that the chamber is required to serve all businesses in Ridgway in the areas of marketing, promotion, listing businesses, listing services. And so by having it be that everybody gets this benefit, whether you pay or not, it hog-ties them in being able to be proficient in raising money on their own. It makes it so that local businesses are represented whether they are a member or not. And so what would be an interesting thing to look at is how their self-sufficiency has increased or decreased over the decade that Ridgway has been allocating the lot funds, right? That's all. Thanks.
And I think, again, what I was trying to say is this discussion, I don't think is a reflection on the chamber. I think the chamber has a structure that the structure that the chamber didn't create has to be poked in. Because between grants which come from this, hold on one second, grants that come from the state and our lot funds, that's 90% of the public dollars. So.
My only comment is, Ridgway is not that big and we don't have that many businesses. And I wasn't around during the legacy of when the chamber originally received the lodging tax, but I do think that that was kind of the idea behind the chamber being charged with being the marketing sector for the Ridgway community. Because we can't ask businesses to become a member for $500, $1,000, and they just can't afford that. So just want to make that clear.
Certainly, that actually though is an argument for possibly bringing, I mean, if we're paying $90,000 in personnel expenses next year, would it be easier and more streamlined to bring that in-house, make that mesh better with what Tara's doing? Because now I have a question of what is Fuse doing versus what is the chamber? Because we're doing it with public dollars. We still need to be representing those businesses, and maybe the $12,000 we're collecting as membership isn't worth harassing the businesses for $12,000 in membership. It just, you know, it just really adds up, you know, then it adds work to our town staff, but we do have town staff and we're not paying Middleton accounting, and we start just layering on an additional organization. And yeah, Ridgway's small, so is the chamber. And there's those inefficiencies.
I just looked up, out of curiosity, a comparable town, being Carbondale, and they are completely member funded. They are not part of the government. They are not funded by the government. And with, you know, 65% of the lot tax given on staff and accounting expenses, that number makes me uncomfortable. That makes me feel as if we are not going with the spirit of the law, nor really the letter of the law of what our constituents voted on for economic development and tourism.
And I think it's really important to think about, you know, we have this Fuse organization. When things got rough with our businesses last year, the chamber was involved, but the organization leading the discussions around what do we do to help our Clinton Street businesses ended up being Fuse. Probably not out of any fault of the chamber, but because it's not clear who you go to when you say the town needs to help us, right? And the chamber, as an extent, like taking the lot tax, they're part of that, but they're not part of that. And so what does it mean when businesses say, help us, town? You have our tax dollars, help us. Who do they go to? Right?
Yeah, it's tricky. I guess in the interest of trying to move the discussion along, I'd just like to point out some things that I think are worth stating. I think at this point in the calendar year, the budget year, I think if you look at the options that staff has laid out for us, options 2 and 4 don't make any sense, because that's effectively pulling the rug out from under the chamber for this year. So the question is, do we renew the PSA with the chamber just for 1 year with no other discussion, or do we follow option 3, which says renew the PSA for 1 year, but put them on notice that starting in the fall of 2025, we're going to ask for an RFP and we're going to open it up to special marketing organizations around the state.
Or examining general options for what else that might look like.
And thinking outside of the box.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think number 3 makes a lot of sense.
Correct. Maybe not all of the lot funds going to the chamber or to one specific organization. The chamber obviously has successes online with the website. They have successes. Maybe we divvy up these lot funds to 2 or 3 different groups. I know for a short while last year, there was a group talking about how to approach that. Now, maybe we set that intention and we'll.
I actually think, not that any of us need additional meetings, I actually think we need a work session where Tara's there, where we're looking at the mission of Fuse and your role and how that meshes with our legal language that we have. Ash, I'd love you to bring your expertise in what the chamber has done, but what the real mission and goals of everybody are. I think we are going to have to hash out what that looks like before we could even put together an RFP.
I think that's a good point.
I agree.
So a year ago, I had no idea what Fuse was.
Yeah,
Or-
well, and I
And I
think-
think a lot of people don't.
And I think the duplication is
I've heard a lot.
a real concern, and so we need everybody who's involved in these pieces. And gather, and maybe that involves some business surveys ahead of time to get some of that information, because we can't, there's a maximum. Like people at a table, but we need some of that feedback,
And Fuse is next on the agenda.
yeah, so.
That really needs to be our goal for this year, before next year's fiscal cycle.
I think number three then like satisfies a lot of the concerns that people have, because doing that competitive solicitation process, I mean, obviously the chamber is welcome to apply for that as well, and they can prove like, hey, like, this is how we're gonna, satisfy your concerns, and also getting outside or other applications would satisfy a lot of the concerns that board and.
I would plan on what Kevin said, and maybe altering what 3 says. The way I read 3 is continue the PSA for this year, then hold a competitive process for a similar PSA for a potentially different organization. But I think there's some merit in holding a workshop
Before that.
looking at how to divvy these things, such that the solicitation may be for more than one thing, or it could be that it's,
I think it's,
Well,
not
that
a
gives-
solicitation for the exact same.
what we're
thing.
talking about primarily is looking long and hard at what the RFP looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the RFP could be stated in such a way to say, organizations that specialize in marketing can apply for part of the funds.
Right.
Someone who specializes in general economic development could apply to another part of it. So it wouldn't, the RFP wouldn't necessarily be to ask for one organization to take on that whole 50%.
And again, I think our work session is gonna be the visioning on, is it an RFP, is it a combination of in-house, is it? Like, there's a lot of pieces, is it more supportive organizations doing events that, take a lot of work and bring people into town, so,
In order to best spend the money that was dictated by that ballot.
Yep, and focusing on, it is tourism, promotion, and economic development. That is what we have promised taxpayers we're spending this money on. Which is not to say that the chamber hasn't been doing that. It's just, how do we most efficiently serve all residents, because it's primarily public dollars, and also our businesses.
So giving
And
another year
organizations.
to work on and build a fine scope of work.
No, you can't. Here, let us put a giant dumpling block in front of you and ask why you fell.
Yeah. But yeah, it'd be helpful whether, it's the chamber again the next year or someone else. It'd be helpful to anyone to have us all clarify what needs to happen, so.
And I do want to make sure that we have really concrete timelines in place for all of the steps. I do feel really uncomfortable with some of the ways that the social media has been going. I do feel really uncomfortable with the website not getting updated until just a few days ago. I would like to make sure that we are very concrete in our language in this RFP, whether it's via the chamber or moving forward with any other group or groups in the future.
Yep, and that'll be part of that
Work
discussion
session,
we
yeah.
have.
I think a work session is a good.
Because the PSA, as it's written for next year, is pretty well defined.
Yeah, I mean, and Tara and the chamber have spent a lot of time on the contract for this year, updating and clarifying things, because last year was the first year of the contract. So I mean, I think the first year of contract is always sort of a shot in the dark of saying, hey, let's try this and meet these deliverables. And like I said, the chamber's met a lot of them, a couple they didn't, and then Tara and Ashley have spent a lot of time going back through that contract to try to, make things clearer for both us and them. And it still needs changes next year.
I actually have a question about, not really this PSA, but we really just sort of threw a bomb at the chamber. And so I want to ask you guys if this is the direction we're going, and it sounds like extending through the end of the year, knowing that things are probably going to change in some ways in 2026. Is the chamber comfortable with us just approving this contract that just got hammered out with so much work? Is that fair? Given that now we've put a big question mark at the end. Like I think I'm okay with it, but I just want to make sure you have a chance. And if that means we whatever percentage we just, I don't know, but it feels a little unfair just to be like, we changed everything. I mean, give you money in the next, whatever, but how do you feel about it? Yeah, so like if we just approve this through the end of the year.
Okay, I'm not sure, sorry. I'm not sure I'm understanding.
I guess
the
I'm
last
saying-
comment, but what are you asking?
You guys hammered out this contract before we said 2026 is super in question. Are you guys comfortable at this time if we approve this and move
I
forward?
think what Beth's asking is there, given the discussion we're having, is there anything in particularly the scope of work, Exhibit A, that you're not comfortable with now, if you know that at the end of this year, everything's up in the air?
No, I don't think we are. Tara,
It's a fair question.
Tara and Ashley and I and Nicole Olet sat down together last week and went over the last few questions and agreed on a couple of just wording sort of changes. We're very comfortable with the PSA as it's written. I also, going with Josie's comment here, this was the first year to do it this way. And, you know, it's a learning curve for everybody. The work that Ashley has done, I would bet that that takes 2 to 3 people to replace. She works many more hours than she actually charges, I'm sure of that. Google what grant writers make. Google what marketing specialists make, and then add it all up. Chambers of Commerce, this is what they do. And yes, granted, we cannot support ourselves with membership dues. So yes, this is a very unique situation to ask for taxpayer money to do all of this work. But I guess the appeal here from me, and I'm speaking more as a private person now, do you want to be the first town that kills the Chamber of Commerce? Because that's what it would basically mean. That is the end of us. We will no longer have an employee. It would be an ineffective volunteer board.
Didn't you, right? Kill their chamber?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Unfortunately,
I guess it's the same.
It's already been done in the county. Yeah, unfortunately. Well, I think Beth stated it pretty clearly earlier, but I would also echo that, this feels like kind of a attack mode on you, and we really don't intend for it to be that way. We're just trying to find the best.
I have a quick.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of speaking personally and professionally at the same time, but I do want to let the council know that I have a lot of connections at the state level. Lodging tax is used in all sorts of ways in other communities. So I just want to let you know that we plan to bring that to the table and use that expertise and help with this facilitation, this discussion.
Great.
That's great.
Thanks, Ash.
Okay, one last opportunity for anyone on Zoom or in the room.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
This is Brittany Miller. Sorry, I've been trying to find a window and it never felt like I was in this last section, but my name is Brittany Miller. I own a small frame shop in town and I'm an artist as well. And I've been going to the BRC meetings and as far as I moved here from Telluride, I was there for 25 years and came here and then when getting on this committee in solidarity with, a couple friends and their businesses and struggling. And then the whole big picture of all the meetings that we had and touching on like what is Fuse, what does the chamber do? And having when that suggestion came out about the work session, just like having a clarified, how much is being double dip, how much money is being spent? Is there money being spent in places that there is that inefficiency of double dipping, if you may? I liked that idea. And then these conversations just go in a direction that sometimes I get a little lost because I know there's the contract part and it's obviously on a timeline and it's not like, whatever the saying that there isn't the things that the chamber has accomplished and is there just more bigger picture things that can be established where how this money is spent is highly effective on top of what like Fuse is already doing and how everybody is collaborating, if that makes sense. So that's my 2 cents of just, I liked that idea of having another, I guess, revision of, or re-looking at the agreement, I guess, when somebody suggested the work session. So I'll just leave it at that.
So I'd like to also point out that Fuse, I mean, literally Fuse was who helped write the contract deliverables. So while I believe, I'm sure there's some sort of inefficiencies we can find in a work group, I would assume that Tara did not write a contract for the chamber that includes a lot of duplication of efforts, because Tara is Fuse, and so Tara understands like how not to like create duplication of efforts needlessly.
Right.
So understand that Fuse really is involved in that contract deliverables.
Right. Okay, anyone else? All right, I believe we need a motion to proceed based on the discussion of that.
I would move that we renew a PSA with the Ridgway Area Chamber of Commerce for a term of 1 year and direct staff to pursue a competitive solicitation process as described in option 2 in late summer, early fall of 2025. So contract can be awarded in conjunction with the budget process for fiscal year 2026. And should I include that we should be doing
The
a separate
reference to option 2 describes that process. Okay. Yeah.
Second.
Did you second that?
Yes.
Motion by Josie, second by Beth. Roll call, please.
Council members Graham,
Aye.
Kroger,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Schuyler,
Aye.
Scoville,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thanks, everyone. Good discussion. Appreciate all of your efforts. And forge ahead. Thank you. So that takes us to item number 11, which is update on Ridgway Fuse, Ridgway's creative literacy program, and requested feedback on 2025 Fuse program priorities. You are up, Tara.
Terry.
And Allison.
Again, introducing myself, Tara Wick, with the Town of Ridgway, the Community Initiatives Facilitator.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Etheridge, citizen of Ridgway and co-chair of Fuse this year, along with Donna Jeff as well.
Awesome, thank you. So we've been, we meaning Fuse, the Fuse committee, has been working hard on our priorities for this year, kind of summarizing what we've done in this last year. And when I sat with Josie in the chamber recently, and Josie's like, this Fuse thing? I thought, oh, that was a miss on my part as staff of not taking the time to educate new board members. And it's been a while since we revisited what a creative district is and what a Main Street is. So I thought we'd just touch on that briefly, and also knowing that the chamber was going to go and guessing that some of these questions around roles would come up. So we'll quickly touch on what our programs are that we operate for the state. We'll talk about what we've done this year and what we're looking towards next year, and then kind of how you can help us be successful this year. How do you work this thing? So it's a PDF. Oh, it's a PDF.
Arrow, the right arrow, number.
You have to scroll. This is a PDF.
Well, it's just.
Just so you know, it kind of cuts in and out a little bit on Zoom.
Oh, so just look at
Some of the on Zoom, it was in and out a little bit.
So talk right into the microphone.
That wasn't part of it.
Okay, thank you, Jen. So we are Ridgway, the program through the town of Ridgway is Ridgway Fuse Creative Main Street Program. We are under the Community Development Department within the town. By this end of this presentation, we'd like for you to know a little bit more about what we are, like I said, what we've done, where we're going, and how you can support. So creative districts are really a movement that started close to 30 years ago when some towns like Austin and other keep it weird kind of towns around the United States were being innovative and creative and interesting and, kind of supporting their artists who are coming in sometimes in blighted areas and making them amazing. And suddenly, wow, we've got economic development because all these creative folks are doing wild and amazing things. And And so that kind of built, there was kind of a movement building around what it meant to be, kind of have a creative culture, cultivating cultural creatives as an economic development initiative. And that kind of gained steam. I guess it was about 24 years ago, the National Endowment of the Arts recognized it as legitimate economic development and cultural form. And that continued to gain steam until the state of Colorado, through Hickenlooper's bottom-up economic development initiative, helped to bring creative districts to the state of Colorado. And I know there's many people in this room that were part of that initiative. I'm just telling stories secondhand here. But Ridgway became one of the first creative districts in the state of Colorado about 12 years ago now, give or take. And so there are about 30 all over the state. We get to go and meet with the other creative districts. Mayor Clark was one of the founding members of the creative district, as was Ashley King here and others. Yeah, they're all about just making a community a vital and wonderful place to live, which also happens to generate both cultural capital and actual capital. And then we are also a Main Street program. So Main Street is another national program with a strong state presence that we are a part of. So we are certified as a creative district. We meet some criteria. We go through a rigorous application process every year to become certified as a creative district. And then we're also an accredited Main Street program, both through the national Main Street program and through the state Main Street program. And so Main Street has different roots. It's rooted in preservation. It kind of came from the Historic Preservation Trust, I think, on the national level. And that kind of impetus was about recognizing that all over the United States, there is these, sometimes they're called Main Street, sometimes they're called Center Street or A Street or Clinton Street or something else. And there are the historic Main Streets with historic assets on them have been often neglected. And so there was a movement towards preserving those historic assets as a means for cultivating a vibrant place where people can come, gather, do commerce. And so there's a lot of overlapping goals of these two programs. And so for a number of years, Deidre Silbert, my predecessor, ran both of these programs separately. They both, to become a certified or accredited, you need to have a board or some sort of governing body. So she was running two boards, where we talk about role confusion, right? They were many of the same people, both doing kind of economic development, cultural vitality, economic vitality work. And they said, this is crazy. Can we just fuse them together into one organization? And so we were one of the first in the state. There's a theme there. You'll notice that to do a combined Main Street and Creative District program. So we like to call ourselves a creative Main Street program. Any questions on that part so far? So Ridgway Fuse nurtures the cultural and economic vitality of our community. We have a geographic scope that's fairly specific. So that's the boundary of the Main Street. Both programs require a geographic focus because the idea is that you're making a vibrant, specific place, right? It's not the entire county. It's not even the entire town borders. It's our town core. It's our commercial district. So that's our Main Street and Creative District boundary. I won't do it right now, but I had queued up a link to Google Maps, because if you go on Google Maps and you look on Clinton Street, you'll see that it still looks the way it did in 2012. So there's still like weeds growing up through like
They have an updated street view?
No, they haven't, not on that block. And so like where Space to Create is, it's a big wide open field. But I just wanted to make the point around how much investment has gone into our historic Main Street, Clinton Street over the last 12 years. Millions of dollars between the Ramp Up Ridgway project and the Space to Create, we're all aware. But I just wanted to kind of show, and a lot of private investment as well, and public dollars have really gone into making that an incredible asset to the community. And also we recognize partially through our conversations with business owners this year in what became known as the BRC or Business Revitalization Committee, that our historic Main Street still needs support and invigoration to be able to realize all the business opportunities that exist as people pass through Ridgway. So that I just wanted to share that. And I am going to turn it now over to, oh wait, no, this is my last slide. Then I'll turn it over to Allison. So Ridgway Fuse, our staffing is myself up until 2025. I and my predecessor were 32 hours a week. I've been asked to go up to 40 hours a week, which I did starting in February, so I'm officially full-time. Ariel Bialek, we contracted with her to operate the Decker community room, which is also part of what we do as a creative community space. So she's been contracted at 20 hours a week. And then we have a wonderful hardworking group of volunteers that are there, and our co-chairs, Allison and Donna, have stepped into the role for this year, and they're just really stellar. We also have a large number of volunteers that help put on the Ridgway Independent Film Fest, which we'll talk about soon as the next agenda item. Let's see. So now I'm going to introduce you to again to Allison.
Awesome. Thanks, Tara. I get the fun part to talk about all the awesome things we did this year and celebrate what we were able to achieve. And I think also looking at this, you get a glance, and we'll talk through it, of the differences of what Fuse is doing and what the Chamber is doing, kind of the different activities that we both take on in the community. So hopefully you're familiar with a lot of these things. This year we extended our first Friday art walk from June through October. So moved from about 4 months to 7 months. And that I've had a lot of fun at those first Fridays and saw a lot of people out and about. So I think that was a good move to extend those through the fall season. We also have been diligently expanding our creative directory. So on the Fuse website, you can go and explore all the creative minds at Ridgway. They have profiles, example of their type of work they do, ways to contact them. So that has 90+ members at this point. We worked with a local designer to design a gallery guide for Ridgway, which features 14 galleries throughout Ridgway kind of main town. So these are brick and mortar galleries. Obviously, there's more creatives on the creative district that you the creative directory that you can explore, but it's a nice asset to have at businesses when people are like, what can I do? What's going on? We also started this was our first year of the Fuse mini grants. So we had $6,000 in funding to give out to local people and businesses. So some of that funding went to support community events like Fête de la Musique, the Pride Festival. We also funded some private businesses in expanding their creative kind of assets, block making and other assets for their businesses. And another example of the grant went to the Ridgway Film Club, which has been really fun, happening in the Decker Room every couple weeks. Then we activated the Decker Room, speaking of, which has been a great space for gathering in the community. Thanks to Ariel, big part, and we'll continue to grow that. And then I think where we kind of emerged that was not on our work plan was this BRC opportunity. So we started holding those business revitalization committee meetings with businesses in July after we heard concerns over diminishing sales and activity. So really took the time to just listen, be there, show up, and make sure people felt heard, and that we were kind of convening people in a safe space, a common space to troubleshoot solutions. So that was really satisfying to be a part of as a committee member, and hopefully will lead to some action throughout the town. And then huge success this year was the Independent Film Festival, another thanks to Ariel, which I know we're talking about soon, but expanding that to 4 days, 70+ films. It was really busy and fun and vibrant, and I have no doubt that it stimulated a lot of activity in the town during the 4 days that it happened. And that was all thought thanks to about 4,000 hours of community and volunteer leadership through the Fuse Committee. And yeah, Ariel.
The first Friday was so wildly successful that we actually extended it through December.
So yeah, just to clarify that we did extend First Friday all the way through to December. So it's almost half the year. It's exciting.
Yeah, thanks for catching that. And that was by demand of the galleries, who just felt that it was so beneficial for them and they wanted to keep the event going. So that's been a good success this year. And I just want to point out, many of you are aware that I needed to be on family leave a lot of this year. And so I want to just really acknowledge Ariel, who stepped in to increase her contract to be able to pitch it for me and did a stellar job of covering many things that were just thrown at her, and she was often expertly. I'll also want to really acknowledge Allison and Donna and other members of Fuse, who I literally the first day of, like, when we realized the BRC meetings needed to happen was my last day before leave. And so that effort, which was so responsive to the community and so empathetic and so generous in terms of time, was pretty much, it was Ariel and the volunteers, and they really held it down. So I just really want to acknowledge incredible volunteerism in our community generally, and these stellar individuals who really stepped up. So thank you.
You're here.
Yeah, it was fantastic. We had a retreat, the Fuse volunteers had a retreat in November that was facilitated with the courtesy of technical assistance from the Colorado Main Street program, who sent us a facilitator. That formed the foundation of this plan, as well as input from the BRC meetings and really good strategic thinking sessions with Donna and Allison and I to really kind of refine this down. We also got input from our partners at Colorado Main Street on the state level. So these are our top 3 priorities for Fuse for 2025. First one is to continue to energize downtown with the initiatives that we've been doing. And as you can see, we're open as things kind of organically come at us as well, but these are our core initiatives and our key initiatives that we want to continue, which we just covered. We want to help RIF really take off. We have been incubating RIF, we meaning the town of Ridgway and the creative district for the last 10 years. And there's been tremendous, as you'll hear, volunteer energy and community energy that has really energized it and taken it to a new level, to the point where it's kind of outgrowing its nest. And so we'd like to talk to you about, we'll talk to you later about what we're envisioning as some options for that. But that's a priority for us. And then we'd also like to, and this really, I was hearing this and when you were saying that around the importance of clarifying roles. We feel like the time has come for us to refresh our strategic plan for Fuse. We've been working off one for a few years that we developed shortly after I came on the job. And now I think especially after we've been hearing different community concerns and just really kind of sitting in self-reflection ourselves on how can we be most effective in this community? What are our obligations to the residents, to our businesses, to the creatives? How can we be most effective? And we're kind of like, we aren't really 100% sure. We really would like to think fresh about that and bring in some new ideas and look at the data that exists and really think critically about that. And so we would like to invite the town council to participate in any way that it wants to in any of that. We have been offered technical assistance from Colorado Main Street again to assist with that process, which is a great in-kind asset to us. And we're also anticipating that when we do that, based on what we've heard from some of the community members, that a lot of things that will be identified will be beyond the scope of this program, of a single staff member and contracted person to, and volunteers. And so there may be some larger systemic things that need to be addressed. There may be roles for other organizations or other departments of town, or we're expecting that. And so one of the things that came up was maybe it's time to ask the town to consider a larger economic development plan. Just like hand in glove with what you just said. I don't think you were suggesting like a whole in-depth economic development plan necessarily, but starting with a workshop and maybe going into something, investing in something over the long term to do a relook at how we are supporting our master plan goals of retaining local businesses and having a year-round migrant economy. So that's that. And so we, as we were going through this process, there was kind of 3 main things emerged. One, I just spoke about needing for clarity and Fuse's responsibility around economic development. That you hit that on the nose earlier. So that was kind of our recommendation, and some more larger scale planning. RIF, we need to figure out another organizational structure, we think, for RIF, possibly this year, and definitely over the long term if we want to let it really take off and reach its potential. So we would like to speak with you more about that the next presentation. And then the other piece is recognizing that we have limited capacity for marketing. And because of some of this role confusion, there's been kind of marketing expectation that's been on us, and we're clear I don't have marketing expertise. We have a contract for marketing and promotion, and so we'd really like to be working closer with the chamber as our destination marketing partner to be promoting the things that are going on in the community. So that's it for the Fuse presentation. There's an addendum where you can look at more details around some of our initiatives this year if you care to. We have the gallery guide, more details about our grants in the Decker Room, the business revitalization committee meetings, and RIF, and as well as a narrative that explains our strategic plan, our strategic priorities for this year. Do you have any questions for us?
Questions?
What's the annual, funding for Fuse? In the town?
We have, our program budget is $60,000. We have underspent that every year pretty substantially. And that doesn't include my salary. And it doesn't include like the administrative offices and stuff that can come with all of this town staff positions.
And there's also another line item for the decorator.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, I was going through the budget and I'm like, oh, there's so many pages, I couldn't find it quickly.
So we're one line item is it Creative Main Street, Pam? Is that the line item? And then as Pam rightly pointed out, there's another line item for the Decker room, and that includes our rent that we pay for that room and all of the maintenance, as well as Ariel's time cleaning, and kind of furnishings and incidentals.
Okay.
So I have an update for you and for Ariel.
Sweet.
On behalf of SMPA, I'm managing the grant, the microgrid, which will solar power the Decker room, should be installed in the next 3 weeks. So all the equipment's been ordered. It's being stored in Montrose towns. They've received the deposit. They're waiting for the weather window to get on the roof. The installation of it won't affect operations in the Decker room. It's going to be on the roof as well as in the utility room, which won't require any contractor traffic through the Decker room. But once it's complete, all of the electric use in that room will be 100% solar powered. And will be backed up for more than 24 hours with battery backup should there be an outage. And the reason I'm reminding you of that is there's still $7,000 in the budget for the town, probably through your direction, to purchase equipment that would conform the Decker to what they call a resilience hub. So charging stations for laptops and things like that. Equipment that can be used during an outage for community gatherings to take advantage of the fact that it's might be the only room on that all of Clinton Street that has power during an outage.
That's phenomenal, Terry. Thank you so much for your leadership on
That's
that.
pending. It's coming.
That's it. That's really exciting. We can spend $7,000. I also want to, we kind of zoomed past it, and since we're talking about the Decker room, I just also want to acknowledge like what an incredible asset that is to our community. Thank you, Chamber, for your leadership on designating that space. Ariel's been a fantastic fit as the coordinator. Has really turned that into this really dynamic community gallery. We have developed our public processes for anybody who is a creative can propose a show and get it on the schedule. We charge no commission. It's a place for anybody to be able to show their work. So it's the first public gallery in the community, I think probably in the county. And is also increasingly being really seen as a valuable gathering space. Thank you for keeping it affordable. I think people really appreciate being able to get in there. Ariel's done a great job this year of implementing the proximity space software, the co-working software that we're using for the access management. It's taking a little bit of, there's been a learning curve to it that we didn't entirely anticipate. But I think overall it is a time saver and efficiency for us and allows us to track who comes and goes from the space. So, yeah.
Only 62 from the business conversation.
The banner polls.
Oh, yeah, that's Joan's referring to, and I know that this is outside of Fuse per se, but the town has allocated, and thank you town council for this, allocated money to be able to do a banner poll over Highway 62. That I know has been a long-term goal of the community. So thanks, Preston, for figuring out logistics on how to make that happen.
What's cool is that came from a conversation of the Main Street Gallery.
That's right.
So
yeah, that was really
there are
cool.
connections. Yes.
Yeah, and that's one of the, I think that's one of the most valuable things about being part of these two state and national programs of Main Street and the creative districts is all the networking and training and technical assistance opportunities that come through those, much like what Ash gets to plug into through the Colorado Tourism Organization. So it's wonderful to have those friends in high places that can help connect you to interesting models. I think that's all we've got. Are there other questions about Fuse?
Any questions online or in the room? Feel free to just unmute if you can't figure out where the raise hand thing is anymore. Over here, Peter, has any questions? No questions. Okay. Thank you. Great presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for this. I will just also mention, since we're talking about collaboration and who's doing what, the chamber, Ashley's been sitting on the board of Fuse, which is a really valuable contribution in terms of being able to bring.
Great.
And now I'm going to invite Ariel.
Next up is the discussion on direction on the Ridgway Independent Film Festival.
So,
you're dancing and I'm singing.
okay, that's right. No,
That was the plan. Okay.
So Ridgway Independent Film Festival, as you know, this is our 10-year anniversary. And it has been held within the town for all that time. And these last couple of years have been like none of the other preceding 8 years. There's been a lot of creativity, largely fueled by Ariel and many other volunteers who have contributed to making it an incredible event. So what we're going to do is celebrate with you what happened this year, briefly, dazzle you, ideally, and then we'd like to talk to you about some of the questions that we have about the best way to support the film festival moving forward and get your input. So this is kind of confusing. Okay, thank you.
Funky, but
Okay, so we're funky. There's some banners. Let's see. Okay. Festival highlights. We'll also go over the finances with you and some of the other details. There we go. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Ariel Bialik.
Hello. How are you guys doing? Are you hanging in there? Do you need a little shake it out? No, I'm going. Okay. That's like just crush it. Okay, so if you were at the festival this year, it was a whiz banger, 4 whole days, 4 packed days of films and events. We had 76 short films. We included this year panels, workshops, special events, a block party, dancing, all kinds of beautiful things. A lot of people came out. We sold $11,000 worth in tickets, plus, unprecedented. We had a number of venues. We had children's programs. They were bursting at the seams for these programs, and they begged to have a bigger venue next year. And that included some stop motion animation workshops that were free to the community and very well attended, and taught by professional teaching artists. Yeah, that was really great, actually. Art exhibition, tons of people came out to the corresponding art exhibition. So we were just, yeah, trying to hit all the different beautiful horses. There was a theme in 2024, and I think we nailed it there. We had a lot of horses and horse-themed films to go with our theme. So yeah, we had filmmakers come in from all around the country, and they were treated to some beautiful hospitality thanks to our 76 plus sponsors and partners this year. And it was a very, very exciting community-wide event. So yeah, we saw everyone, and we were at the Chiquita, we were at the Decker Room, we were at the Sherbino, and in the streets. So this was great. It was really great. So these are just some of most of the many sponsors that we engaged with this year, and that includes nonprofits, that includes businesses, that includes a lot of Ridgway. As you can see, more than we can even list right now. So Tara is going to discuss the money part of this. So I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Ariel. That was awesome. And thank you for taking the lead in creating such a fantastic event this year. Ariel is the volunteer festival director this year and last year, with the help of the other volunteer committee and as part of a program of Fuse. So I get to manage the budget. Let's see, where's that going? Okay. So I just want to give you a quick overview. So we put $15,000 aside within the Fuse budget, so that's part of that $60,000. We put $15,000 aside for the film festival. That was substantially more than we'd done previous years. You'll see a little graph. When I came on board, we had $2,000 set aside for it. We moved it up to $10,000, $15,000 this last year. The festival itself generated $18,000 in ticket sales and sponsorships and small grants. The challenge about being a municipal government is when you spend that, you don't get to like keep the extra money aside for the next year. That just rolls back into the fund for the town, which is as it should be, but that's a little bit different than a nonprofit, which I'm learning because I'm used to the nonprofit world. And thank you, Preston. So part of why we could do a festival as dynamic and as extensive as what Ariel described for $15,000 was because of all of the volunteer time and the in-kind donations. So this is based on volunteers' reported time. We put out a survey after the film fest and asked people how much time they contributed to the film festival in the whole year preceding. And then I used the federal rate to calculate the value of that time. And that's how much the value of the time is from the volunteers, including and then their mileage, lodging that people contributed. That includes lodging that people opened up their homes. That includes lodging from, I think, at least 4 different lodges here. And I think all of the lodges participated and donated rooms. It includes people who donated their own like ADU spaces for filmmakers that came into town. And it also includes Ariel's time taking herself on her own dime to a number of different film festivals around the country to be able to network and meet filmmakers and kind of recruit them into our festival, which is why we had such high quality offerings and so many people visit. And then we actually had a volunteer that reached into their own pocket and set up a contract with a marketing firm for $5,000 to be able to market the film festival. The amount of community support for this has really been quite phenomenal. And the amount of relationship building that Ariel and the rest of the committee have done have also just been really great in terms of just generating a lot of community energy around this shoulder season event. I think that's something that we call out in the town master plan of wanting to focus on shoulder season. Because we know that sometimes we're busting at the gills in the summer and even again in the winter, and that we're kind of dead in about this time of year in November, October, end of October, early November. So it hits that very nicely. So I just want to give some recognition to the value that got brought to the table, over 3,000 hours of.
So Tara, that 5,000 you mentioned privately donated for marketing, that's part of the in-kind?
That's part of the other in-kind, yeah. And that's based on, I forgot to put it on the bottom of that slide, but I put it on the bottom of the next slide. That's all as reported in the volunteer survey. And then I calculated that out. So that was.
I'm just curious why you didn't put that in expenses.
Because it wasn't our expense.
Okay.
It was yeah, so a volunteer.
Gotcha.
The volunteer actually found the marketing firm, contracted with them and paid them out of their own pocket. And then, so that didn't hit our books at all.
Gotcha.
So that's why it was in kind. But I just wanted to reflect what it really took to do it. Yeah, it's cool.
It's amazing.
This is the kind of work that the volunteers reported that they did. So they really took a lot of leadership in all aspects of the program. We had a volunteer coordinator who was doing all the volunteer coordinating. This is like, I came back from leave like 2 weeks before the festival and to this incredible volunteer effort, right? So I left to incredible volunteer efforts, came back to incredible volunteer efforts. We have an incredible community, right? So I just wanted to give credit there. And these were the kinds of in-kind contributions that I've described some of already. We also, in the feedback survey, we asked people what the best part of participating in RIF was. So these are some of the themes that came out of the best part of participating in RIF. As you can imagine, with high level, just community connection, engagement, vitality, and energy and passion from volunteers, in particular Ariel. And then some of the improvements that the volunteers pointed out. This is all themes from that same survey. And this is not surprising, given the fact that this was an all volunteer effort while the one staff member was on leave. But it was needing some more support around pre-festival communication, marketing, event logistics, venue and technical improvements, marketing and outreach, and preventing burnout. I thought maybe Ariel was gonna fall over when I got that, because she was kind of staggering from all of this, and many of the other volunteers were also really kind of stretched and feeling, I could feel the stress of like, wow, this is big. It's maybe a little unwieldy, like, wow, this is amazing. And it's also a lot. And there was this kind of a need for some project management that was just beyond what we could expect of volunteers, I think, given everything else that they've taken on. So those were like strong themes that came out of the feedback survey. So now we come to 2025. We celebrated what we've done. We've reflected on where we can do better, and we're looking at how we implement that. And I have some questions for you about what to do. So obviously we want to maintain a quality festival, a quality experience. We want to maintain community engagement, because this has just been really fantastic for that. Improve the logistics and marketing, and prevent burnout of our volunteers in particular. That's how the investment from the town budget has grown over the years. This year, we've earmarked $30,000 based on the revenues that were received and the amount that we had set aside last year. So that's, roughly the budget that we have allocated. The Fuse budget has some wiggle room that we could move around. That's about half of the Fuse budget. So we may overspend that a little bit, I think. But we also anticipate about 15,000, who knows how much income, but possibly up to about $15,000 in income. So we're recognizing this is what, and this is from the Fuse Committee's discussion, my assessment, conversations with Preston and others. Our sense is that the film festival has outgrown the bounds of the Fuse program. It's its own whole thing. It's not just this 4-day event, but it's a year-round effort, not only to curate all the films, select all the films, but there's also being contacted year-round, like, hey, can we do a different screening? And hey, would you guys like to take, riff on the road out here in the West End? Or are there other, and those are all things that have happened, again, all with volunteers. It's really cool. And it's a whole thing. Like it's really become its own program. That's not just kind of a little event. It's become more than that. And I think the communities expressed a lot of excitement around it being more. And we'd like to be able to support it to grow, and it needs legs under it. It needs proper infrastructure in order to do that in a stable way. And so, and as I explained, there are some constraints for being within the town. Like if we over fundraise, that kind of just rolls back in. It's difficult to plan the budget for this because of where it lands in the year. Since we start budget planning in August, by the time the film festival happens, like that's done and dusted. Like we've already, like everything's pretty much needs to be in by now. And we're like, wow, this is really different than what we anticipated. And, it's difficult to kind of wedge ourselves into the budget planning process because of the time of year. So those are the main constraints that we're seeing. Not that they can't be handled, but it is a challenge. So I have a couple of options that I'd like to offer to you for consideration. Since this is a legacy event of the town, and it's been something that's really been nurtured by the town for so long, I really wanted to bring this to council. I feel like it's not just a management decision, but really something that belongs to the council for guidance. So one option is that we could stay within our budgeted roughly $30,000 of expenditures and pay somebody for their time to help to put this on. Probably not as much as it would actually be needed, but we can pay at least some of somebody's time to assist with this, and maybe scale it back just a little bit so that it's a little bit more manageable. I'm thinking maybe like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, instead of, maybe Friday evening, Saturday all day, Sunday half day, or something like that. I'm remiss actually that I needed to mention that our core partner throughout all of these 10 years has also been a Shubin Theater. That's really important to say. They obviously are a historic theater, an expert arts programmer, and they've been with us in lockstep since the very beginning. So yeah, I should have mentioned that as one of our core partners. And I bring that up now because, one of the things that we've also considered is, well, could it make sense to pilot for a year, having the film festival operate out of, another nonprofit, and the Sherman Theater is the theater, it's their, they do film, that's what they do, and arts programming, and so that's another idea that I'd like to put before you as an option. I've started those conversations with Ashley, I don't know if she's still here.
She's still here.
And their board is considering it. It hasn't been a decision that's been made yet, but before we got too far into that, I wanted to just bring that to you for consideration. I see the pros being, it would allow the film festival to potentially grow more organically and grow its capacity. In terms, if they were to over fundraise, potentially maybe, Sherman could choose to put aside a restricted fund for that so that it could grow its capacity. They're just a little bit more nimble in terms of how they can operate, and they have a lot of expertise in arts programming. I would imagine that the town would still be a core partner. We could allocate our budget to support their efforts, and be at the table as, this kind of barn lifting effort that is the film festival. And I would see us still contributing, time and energy, but at a rate that was more sustainable for the FUSE committee and staff. So I'm kind of putting before you a couple of options. Maybe you see others that I've missed. I know Pam also has a lot of expertise in arts programming in this community, concert series and others, but so we sort of see one plan could be strengthening our partnership with the Sherman Theater as the organizational home for this year as a pilot, and then we can talk together about how that went, see if that makes sense long-term, or to bring it in-house, putting more money towards staff and shrinking down the festival a bit so that it's more sustainable. I think there's one more piece I wanted to say is, regardless of which direction we go, this is a strategic planning year for FUSE. And so part of our strategic planning effort will also be working with our partners to do a long-term strategic plan for the film festival. So this is a 2025 plan, but well, no matter what, we also thinking, does it make sense for FUSE to be its own 501c3, or should it be part of another nonprofit? What are the options and what makes sense?
You mean RIF?
Thank you. Anyway, I'll stop and
So along those lines, I was suggesting Sundance Festival, it's operated by the Sundance Institute, right? That's a huge thing.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Any possibility to partner with them and become an adjunct to some other larger organization like that? Part of the reason I brought that up is that John and I attended this Mountain Town 2030 Summit, which had like 70 municipalities.
Okay.
And I was on a panel with the guy from Park City, and he pumped the Sundance Film Festival. I said, well, we have one. Anyway. But in any case, there's a huge budget organization.
There's a huge, yeah, right. Well, Ariel really keeps her ear to the ground with this kind of stuff, so I'm gonna ask her to weigh in, because I know she's been trying to track some of the Sundance stuff.
I mean, offhand, absolutely not. That would be very dreamy. What I can say is that Sundance, as you may have heard, might be moving to Boulder. Okay, well, so I will just quickly say that that's very interesting, because if that happens, then immediately there's $5 million in tax credit funding that can be put towards film festivals in Colorado. If they don't move, then that's not the case. So let's all keep our fingers crossed for that. In terms of RIF being a part of a larger organization, not really. There's certainly a possibility of partnering in the future with OIF, which is, the URA International Film Festival. But Telluride is the closest, biggest film festival, and I don't foresee that as being a fit for them or for us.
Just out of curiosity, how do they operate? Telluride, do they have an independent nonprofit that runs that?
Yeah, and
through the town.
No, it's not. In fact, it's been a point of contention for their town, as it has been accused just this past year of not being really a town thing anymore. But in any event, I think that RIF is very much a town thing and very much an organic from the community thing, which is great. But yes, it would do well to have a fiscal sponsor that was an arts-based nonprofit, I think, for its own intrepid flexibility, so. Did I answer those questions there? And yes, I mean, I think there's a lot of potential for the.
Question, that's ignorance.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That's a question that we've asked ourselves a lot. I mean, I think that what's great about asking ourselves very carefully whether or not to start another nonprofit is that folks in this community are great at starting nonprofits, but is it necessary? Can we not leverage all of these legacy partners together to rehome the festival and really hit it out of the park with the partnerships that we have on the resources that we have without creating another like administrative infrastructure?
Yeah, in my opinion, starting another nonprofit is the absolute last choice we should consider. There's way too many nonprofits in this county already, and it's not necessary. There are partnerships we can take advantage of. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, you know, at the 20-year anniversary, maybe there is a discussion happening about an independent nonprofit. Like that, who knows how it develops.
Sure.
But what I was gonna say is there is a benefit to working, the film festival being cited within a nonprofit where Fuse remains a managing partner in some way. Because otherwise, if it moves entirely to a nonprofit somehow without that Fuse link, then we drop the film festival into our community initiatives budget. And that, right, so part of how we're structuring this is thinking about how can we still have Fuse using that budget that we've allocated without having to change, because we've set the community initiatives things as a percentage of budget. So this would, $30,000 would really skew that, and we'd have to think about how that process
went
down.
That was gonna be my first question is, you know, that 30,000 is news to me. And I think it's great, but then what happens to that if, say, Sherman takes it on for 2025? Are we anticipating giving that money to Sherman? Has that been discussed?
Press and I have begun to discuss it. We, you know, in terms of options, Ash and I have begun to discuss it. That's part of what I'd love some guidance, but I think yes. If that's something that we can logistically do, if the Sherman board agrees that they would want to take that on. Again, these are kind of preliminary conversations. But I think that would make sense. And the 30,000 comes from kind of like $15,000 that we had in the Fuse budget and anticipated revenue based on last year. So that's kind of how we, and just kind of realizing like, oh, we probably under budgeted the 15,000 given what we actually learned in the course of running the film festival was needed. So that was kind of a place that Preston and I landed with his guidance, you know, trying to keep the budget within bounds, felt comfortable and reasonable. So that's kind of where that number came from.
Well, so then the next question to me is, I'd like to hear what Ashley has to say about it. I think we all would like to. Your thoughts, Ashley?
Ashley King, Director of the Sherman. So, you know, we've engaged in these discussions, and I think that certainly the Sherman has been part of the RIF partnership from the very inception, largely because, John, it was your moonwalk. And RIF, if you don't know, was one of the first projects of the Ridgway Moonwalk initiative, which was part of our initial endeavor when we were doing Creative District. And we did these monthly art walks and art experiences on the full moon. And so it was this very innocent, we're going to have one night of films at the Sherbrno, and we're going to run and call her entries. And it was, you know, innocent, and it was intended to be a one night moon oriented community-wide event.
So it was great.
And it was great. It was wonderful, just like many of the moonwalks were. It became a repeat event. So certainly the level to which Joan is here too, she was a major part of all of that. And the level to which the Ridgway Independent Film Festival has grown is far beyond what it was initially initiated as, which was essentially, you know, a couple hours at a moonwalk. So over its 10-year history and tenure, it certainly has grown to the point where, quite frankly, and I've expressed this to Tara, I do not have the resources or manpower to take it over without the acquisition of a person who would lead that charge. And so the charge is essentially like, I'm more than happy to assist in managing and guiding and placing it under the Charbonneau with regard to its programmatic structure and helping guide it in its growth in arm in arm with Fuse, if the town wanted Fuse to be part of that. However, I don't have magic money. And so supporting a position out of nowhere is not something that we are equipped to do. So essentially the pitch is if the town can support by funding essentially the position, more than happy to make that happen, see how we can make it grow. I guess the differential in this situation is that the profitable revenues realized at the end of the event this year sort of disappear. They don't go back into Fuse. And the difference is that there's a funding mechanism at play that would allow that funding to roll into the Charbonneau's budget for the next year that would help sustain that in the long term. So, you know, to some degree, you could expect that over time, that revenue builds and helps fund that position or helps fund that. But you also could very realistically guess, I mean, Ariel, you could probably speak to this. How many employees do most full week film festivals employ?
More than one.
My guess is more than one. And so that's the reality, is that as the festival grows, the reality of me being able to say, oh, well, we're good now. So that 18,000 can just be used to pay this one person. While as we grow this festival and grow this program, the reality is that there will be more. If the expectation is the festivals to grow, there will be continued pressure on growing the staff, building more people. So it's likely that we would still look to the town to be a partner long-term in some way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah. Other questions? Comments, thoughts?
We've done a lot of incubating of RIF, and I don't want to certainly like pull resources, but I think we are at the point where the town increased investment needs to stabilize, right? Like happy to help continue to support it because I think we would still be supporting it if it was entirely separate. And this is a unique one where we incubated this new program.
You and the Charbonneau, and I
And
think
the Charbonneau,
a big part of the in-kind expenses is that we've dedicated quite a bit of expense ourselves to this program and growth and development of this program over the years. Over the decade, the Charbonneau has certainly been a major investor as well. So we both have collectively invested in the growth and development of this program.
I guess the question is, how much do we
Exactly.
want to, and should we scale it down to keep it where it's at? Do we need to scale it up? I mean, those are big questions.
Like, yeah, my initial thought is you want a bigger venue for children partner with schools. Like that shouldn't, like URA partners with URA International Film Festival, brings it into the schools. Maybe we could do some work with high schools, but then maybe Susan would be willing to give us a bigger venue for those children's programs. Like that's one of my first thoughts is it's actually additional partners. If we're talking about not scaling down,
which
we're talking about really investing from multiple angles, town continuing to kind of invest where we're investing, but for it to grow. I hate to say this, given our other discussions, but is there a role for whatever marketing is happening with bot funds to support? If this is truly a shoulder season, bringing in of people, that's part of the discussion we have, which we kind of have tabled for the moment, but that becomes part of the bigger picture.
It's a good example.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of how, you know, and even for me leading the Charbonneau, you know, collectively, I think we've engaged as a partner in many ways with the town. And I would not want this partnership to cannibalize sort of those strategic partnerships, right? So like, you kind of have to like look at things in this isolated thing. A bigger question is, you know, and this is something that we have not gotten into deeply on our end of things, which is and we ask this all the time with WeHawk, and WeHawk is a great example of a program that has ample opportunities for growth. And sometimes we have to look at each other and say, do we need to grow more? And like, look each other in the eye and be like, yeah, we can grow, but do we need to grow? And that might be where we are with Film Fest. It might be actually a more opportune time to stabilize and not grow and not expand, but be more strategic about how we're running the schedule. And that's something that Tara and I have talked about lightly. It's something that certainly I would be discussing with my board and getting their opinions on, because the sort of assumption that of course we're going to want to grow it more and more and more is, I think, oftentimes sort of a false assumption, and I'm not sure that that's necessarily what we'd be headed to, but I think that you can expect that people who work for free eventually don't want to work for free.
Right.
So that's, you know, including myself.
Right, that's why I wondered if like the idea of going to 2.5 days of film instead, just stabilize for a year and figure out payments, figure out the long term, like you guys are doing like the 5-year planning process anyway. Is this a year you just try to stabilize and not grow and give yourself time to do that strategic planning?
The flip side is if you do it at the level you're doing it and realizing that we're thinking about how do I fund it and what is the role of it, surveying lodging providers on their occupancy rates that weekend, surveying restaurants on their sales that weekend or Wednesday, Thursday versus a normal weekend in November. Like trying to get some sort of level on the economic impact of this festival on the town, because it is a particular window that we are interested in.
Well, and especially if we are.
That was exactly my thought.
Yeah, and especially if we're more collectively marketing and strategically marketing as a community. I mean, I think that that for me is one of the greater gaps, is rather than leaving these smaller entities to market and promote in their little silos with their limited, you know, it's a volunteer director of a film festival, a volunteer director of an arts festival, a volunteer director of a youth baseball program trying to coordinate a tournament. You know what I mean? When you can't also expect those volunteers or those people in a limited capacity to also be a marketing expert, right? And the more effective we are in that marketing component, the better it is for the lodging sales tax, right? You would foreseeably see that your lodging tax dollars increase with any event, whether it's shoulder season or peak season. But if we are collectively marketing in a way that's more strategic, that's what makes sense. And as a nonprofit, I can tell you that what I have seen in my years of service for nonprofits is that oftentimes when you make a greater investment that, like, so I would say that in this year, my urge to you guys is that in a year of sort of transition, growth, development, a greater investment stabilizes your ability to then back off of that investment later. So to me, anytime in a nonprofit where we've said, oh, we can't actually do this yet, but we go ahead and take the leap and we say, but we have to in order to move past this point and get through the next phase. When we make that investment, we say, we're going to do this, we're going to set the benchmarks, we're going to guide this in the way that we need to guide this, and you move forward in the growth and development of that program. And oftentimes who winds up paying for that position, you know, in the end, as you successfully do that programming. But it takes a little something to bite off initially. So essentially what I see is that you had $15,000 in real expenses, not including personnel, and that the pitch is essentially for another 15.
Or marketing. Personnel or marketing.
For what?
The marketing was.
Yeah, it was
Right.
15,000
Right.
expenses, not including personnel or marketing. Yeah.
Right, not including personnel and marketing. So the idea would be that you maintain that same level, but now you're also committing to help contribute to paying a person in sort of this incubation launch, with the idea that that money would turn around the following year to support that position. Does that make sense? Rather than losing it at the end of the year in the general rollover. So that's where we're at. Any more questions for Ashley, nonprofit lady?
Thanks, Ashley.
Okay.
One of the things that comes to mind and to bookmark when we talk about economic development is when we collect these lodging taxes, are we getting any sort of occupancy data? I would love to know, and I've asked this when it comes to Airbnbs before, because we hear demand for more licenses. But what I would love to know is 50, they're not full and how full are the Airbnbs? And so one of the things that I would love us to think about when we think larger economics is collecting some occupancy data on number of rooms or units in the town of Ridgway. And on any given time period, maybe it's on a monthly basis because we don't have a special software or something, being able to correlate bringing people to town with things that are happening would help us if we're marketing in town or an agency that we're working with. And it might cost money to gather that data, but it might help us truth to the voters what's happening.
Yeah.
And for a lot of
That's a
reasons.
great idea. Great idea, Beth.
We need to figure out a way to
In our.
measure what our impact is.
Pardon me, I'm sorry, on Thursday mornings for the business gatherings, there's an awful lot that already keep collecting that data, so it's out there already.
I can't find Airbnb data, and I've talked to state tourism folks. We don't, that is data we do not have. We can get the hotels.
Yeah.
The Airbnbs are a lot harder to grasp, and so that's a problem that we'll have to tackle.
They do track it though, that's what.
But they're not reporting it to us, so it's
Right,
useless.
right.
That's gonna be part of our requirement, you have a license.
I was just gonna say, it would have to be a requirement of the
Which is,
license,
which
because.
they renew every year, so they opt in every year.
Because it is a very, it is an easy report to do, at least on VRBO, I haven't done Airbnb, but on VRBO, on the back end owner side, you 100% get occupancy statistics, and so maybe that's something that when we do renewals, we ask them to report that to us quarterly or annually or whatever, because we'll look back,
Yeah, I think that's.
So like,
look back the year.
broken down by months, that
Yeah.
wouldn't be too onerous.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to bring it back to Riff. I think that it is an incredibly, and I completely agree with what was just stated. But I do think that Riff is something that brings people to town in the time that we are trying to get more people in town, like Beth just mentioned. And I do think that it is valuable to a little bit put our money where our mouth is on this and, make sure that we're paying someone and we're not going to burn someone out completely for housing, completely coming up with all of the films and all of the programming for the weekend. I think that it's important to pay someone and not let it fizzle on the vine.
So I'm confused what exactly the ask is, because we've already budgeted our line item for fees for the year, so it's not like we can just add funding for a employee.
So we're not asking.
Budget process,
Yeah.
right?
I can clarify the ask.
Okay.
So we're not asking for more money. I think this is within the budget, so the commitment is to stay within the budget item. And I want to be clear that I don't think that we can do the scope that we did last year, even investing more money, because we can't afford to pay our. Right, and for the, you saw that number of the volunteers, right? And some of that, we'll still have volunteers, but I think it'll still make sense, to Ashley's point, to have this be a stabilizing year and kind of right size the festival for the capacity that we have. The ask is your sense of, would you be comfortable from the town's perspective, shifting the administrative kind of location of the festival to the Sherbino, or would you prefer for us to keep it in-house? I think that's essentially the question.
I think as long as we can talk about a restricted fund within the Sherbino, because the way we budget for things is like, we pay for it and it comes back into our general coffers, but I would like to start seeing if we're really gonna seed Riff, really the impact is next year when we don't get the 15K back, if that's what happens. So we're kind of taking it out of the future, and that gets weird, but I think we look at this as this is seed money for this program. And we maybe continue to support, but the town support might not be able to stay at that level.
If we're not getting it back.
I mean, I don't know, because again, we can't speak to budgeting the future. But I do think it is fair to say it has outgrown town, unless we're gonna like create a department that is, you know, town social programs and take the concerts off Pam's plate and put riff, like, that would be a whole different deal.
I'd like to hear Ariel's take on this because I just noticed that it's being shown on Film Freeway as for 4 days. So what are your thoughts about scaling it back? I'm guessing you're of two minds about that. I bet you'd like to keep doing the level of festival that we had last year and how incredible it was and how diverse and multifaceted. But you're also aware of your capacity. So this talk of scaling it back to 2.5 days or 3 days. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I am of two minds on that, correct? I believe that it would not be ideal to lose the momentum that we gained in 2024. I think it was significant in terms of meeting those kind of economic vitality goals in the shoulder season. I think that's an important aspect of what we achieved. And part of the reason why we're having this conversation, I wouldn't be uncomfortable doing running a 3-day affair that was very comfortably settled into its 3 days. I think that that's fair. I think that one could put on this type of event and really bang it out of the park in 3 days and feel like it was still more than, a couple of hours of the show. No, I wouldn't scale it back to 2 nights, because then one would have lost that momentum, I think, and it would feel deflated.
That's probably why I asked the question. I think there was a level of almost expectation created by the success of the 2024 RIF, and to scale it back too much is going to actually hurt it, I think, going forward. I think that the thing we need to understand, appreciate, talk about is that, no, this idea that anything should grow forever is crazy in our economy, capital.
Yeah.
So it's, we built it to a
necessarily
place.
suggesting that, yeah.
No, and I just want to make sure that that's, we could still do a 4-day festival, maybe scale back a little bit what happens in those 4 days. We could do a 3-day festival. I totally agree with you. And the reason I asked the question is I don't want to scale it back too much because of what that would do to the kind of like you said, the momentum.
What is ideal? 3 year, does the 4-day, did that generate the appropriate amount of buzz?
Well,
was that the energy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why it was successful was because it was totally insane in a lot of ways, but we went for broke and we just pulled out the stops and created, we created like a critical mass of things happening over 4 days, and that brought enough disparate groups in to create like this, a volume of people.
Yeah.
And so if we hadn't, then it wouldn't have.
I think one thing that hasn't been mentioned in all of this is that a big part of the big increase in revenue is we had $100 passes this year, first time ever. And the amount of potential things to do, people could rationalize that $100.
Correct. So
I mean, that I think is that, maybe it wasn't, but I don't know.
no, I don't think it was. Yeah, there was a lot that happened that maybe wasn't captured in this.
That was,
presentation, yeah.
We sold a whole bunch of $100 weekend passes.
Yeah, so it was very affordable. It was an extremely affordable price point, just insofar as festivals are concerned. And then for this festival, there were 16 programs. So, I mean, yes, that's another good point. I think that can you sell a $100 pass for a 3-day affair? Yes, but you can't really do it for a 2-day, and I would certainly encourage to keep it at the 4 days. But that, again, that's not insubstantial in terms of the amount of work that goes into that. But again, also, I think that when you've created a format to run a program, it's nice if you can just then go ahead and reuse the format quickly and fill it in instead of walk it back. But Does that answer kind of
Yeah.
your?
Well,
your
and I know,
question?
and I know this is probably not something that either you or Tara can answer at this moment. But if we talk about scaling it back to 3 days, how much money and energy are we actually saving? Like, I know we can't maybe quantify it at this moment, but I think that's one of my key questions is what's the support difference between the wonderful buzzy 4-day festival, and the 3-day that we feel pretty good about.
Well, no, one of the points I was just trying to make is that 3-4 days, it's what we do in those 3-4 days.
Yes,
It's
correct.
how many programs we run, how many films we screen, how many different things we do, whether we still do.
And what time you do it,
What's that?
and what time you do it.
Yeah. I mean, the one day could be all children's programming at the school or something. Right? There's things within that. I mean, that's what I recommend you focus on, is that we keep it at 4 days, but that we kind of refocus what we're doing in those 4 days, how many programs we have, how many films we show.
Yeah, Thursday was all school stuff and maybe one evening, family-friendly film after the kids are like, guess what I did all day at school? Like, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And then obviously, I don't think we need to get into the weeds
But,
at that level at this point. But I guess just in terms of trying to move forward, we still have lunch on the agenda tonight. I think, I personally am excited that the Sherbino's interested in doing it, and that Eric, you and Ashley and Ariel have actually sat down and started to explore how that might work. I'm in favor of proceeding on that. I'm also on the Sherbino board, so find out more about it. And I think, I don't know if we're looking for an actual motion or more just kind of direction at this point.
Direction.
Yeah. And I think that would be, I think I'm hearing that there's pretty good consensus on that direction. Is there more that you guys need in terms of direction?
I don't think so. I think that's great direction. I appreciate the more robust conversation around the scope. I definitely have a lot of trust in this team, and Ashley's, many years of arts administration, the Sherbino board's direction as well, in terms of like what the right size is for it, right, strike that right balance of having enough capacity to do it, and having it have the right amount of buzz, right amount of income from ticket sales, and all of those different factors. So
Great.
that's it.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so that we skipped 13 because we did that already. And then take us to item number 14, which is review and action on order extending the declaration of local disaster in and for the town of Ridgway related to the Beaver Creek diversion.
Thank you, Mayor. Same as it ever was, with the modification about language about transitioning to the resiliency and recovery phase of this incident. And that was all recommended by Bobby Lucero last month. So that is the one substantive change to this order. And it's also through the end of the year, December 11th. As she recommended.
Good.
I like it. I think this is what we've been talking about all along, and this kind of addresses the issues. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
You don't want to see it?
So boy, I think unless there's questions, are there any questions online? There's nobody else in the room.
No questions. I think we could go ahead and do this.
Okay, someone want a motion?
I move to approve the order extending the disaster in, where is it?
The declaration.
Around the town of Ridgway.
Second. Motion by Beth, seconded by Russ. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Scrambley.
Aye.
Berger.
Hi.
Bacon.
Aye.
Skylar.
Aye.
Scoville.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next up is item number 15, discussion and potential action to authorize staff to hire a part-time deputy for the Joy Marshal's office. Preston.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And Shane will certainly invited to come up and talk from his perspective about the need here, but I hope you all had a chance to read through the staff report. Shane put some good information together. and made a go at trying to paint a picture about the need for some additional help in the marshal's office. So the request before you, which was not budgeted, or has not been budgeted in the fiscal year 2025 budget, is for authorization to recruit and hire a regular part-time deputy for 20 hours per week for the remainder of the year. Again, Shane can kind of reinforce some of the data and information that he provided in staff report. And we do feel that if council decides to authorize, the general fund can accommodate that increase. And again, you know, Shannon, I'm sure they would appreciate hearing from you here about the need, especially as we continue navigating. You know, we're not that far removed from having switched, you know, all the deputies to non-exempt hourly, and trying to figure out that, considering for a long time before that we weren't at that place. So
yeah, we're at the point now where, you know, we need to, I feel like we need to add to our staff. You know, in the presentation here, you know, our investigations are getting more complex. We're spending a lot of man hours just with the increase in that. And you know, from the stats in my year-end report and that were provided by Wesco, our calls for service were up 24.9% this year, which is a pretty big increase. And then with the complexity of things, and then also just the duties that as administration and that kind of stuff has increased. There's so many reportings and things to follow and changes in statutes and new legislation that's coming down. We're just getting to the point now where I feel like we need to take that step forward.
Thanks, Shane. Makes sense. I think there's a lot going on and we're certainly growing. I certainly see more people about, so
Yeah, just the increase in the calls for service makes me feel comfortable with this.
And one thing that you know, I kind of think that we do a lot of our stuff is the self-initiated activities like the directed patrols, but I really feel strongly that those prevent a lot of our calls for service and a lot of issues in town, you know, because we can stay proactive, we can stay on top of situations before they become situations. And that's always how I've tried to you know, see our department going is more proactive and preventative than actual reactive.
okay. Anybody have questions for Shane on this? Staff?
No questions.
Motion?
I'll move to is
At the very bottom, yeah.
I'll move to authorize the recruitment and hiring of a part representative for the marshal's office. Second.
All right, motion by Terry, second by Kevin. Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Graham,
Aye.
Kroger,
Aye.
Lakin, Skylar,
Aye.
Scoville, Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Passed unanimously.
Thanks.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, Shane.
thanks, y'all.
All right, that takes us to number 16, request for authorization of staff to expend budgeted funds and enter into a contract to purchase a fleet vehicle for public works.
Wish Stephen was here to present this one. The request is, before you is consideration of authorizing staff to expend budgeted funds and to enter into a contract to purchase a fleet vehicle for public works. There is money in the budget for a new truck, specifically for Stephen. His truck is at the end of life. If you've ever been in that truck, which I doubt you have, it's interesting for sure. But it's for his day-to-day work stuff. And He's done a great job since Mike Jenkins retired a couple years ago. Stephen really stepped up in that role of researching, fleet purchases. Randy has a big role in that, but Stephen's really stepped up the game and really enjoys that. So he's explored a number of used truck options that fall within that budgeted amount of 40K. The options, of course, have included gas-powered pickups, which is what we have throughout the entire fleet, and also hybrids as well. So a combination of gas and electric. And so we haven't fixated on one yet, because we have like 4 or 5 that we've honed in on, but with them being in other states and not really, I mean, we've all tried to buy cars and want to look at the Carfax. Some of them seem too good to be true. Some of them seem like they may have been accidents. There's just more information we need to pinpoint exactly, but we would recommend one of the hybrid trucks and would request authorization to expend budgeted funds once we're able to pinpoint the perfect or appropriate hybrid truck, provided that it falls under the budget. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it's really important that we do at least hybrid.
Yes, the coverage
Because we got to put our money where our mouth is in terms of climate change goals. So,
Yeah, and that was you, Mayor. That was lunch last week, and you mentioned that. And Stephen the next day had a bunch.
it's awesome.
Well, I move to authorize staff to expend budgeted funds and enter into a contract to purchase a hybrid pickup truck for the Public Works Department at a price not to exceed $40,000.
Seconded.
Beat you.
Sorry, Polly. Josie beat you to it.
How can I get the name in there if there's a delay?
You're online, you don't get any seconds.
Foolish.
You gotta make the motion, girl.
You gotta make a second.
No. Damn.
Motion by Beth, seconded by Josie. Roll call, please.
Council members Graham,
Aye.
Kroger,
Aye.
Bacon.
Aye.
Schuyler.
Aye.
Scoville.
Right.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Thank you. Passes unanimously. That takes us to item number 17, resolution 2504, amending the town of Ridgway standard specification typical drawings for infrastructure construction.
Before you use a resolution that would do just what you said, Mayor, there are a series of changes being proposed by the town's engineers for incorporation into the standard specifications and typical drawings. Joanne is online and can talk to them specifically if you have any questions, but they're outlined not only in the staff report, but in the resolution as well.
Sounds like it just makes a lot of sense.
Anybody have any questions for Joanne? Motion?
I move to approve resolution number 25-04, a resolution of the town council of the town of Ridgway, Colorado, amending the town of Ridgway standard specification and typical drawings for infrastructure construction.
I'll second that.
Motion by Kevin, second by Beth. Roll call, please.
No.
Council members Graham,
Aye.
Kroger,
Aye.
Bacon.
Aye.
Schuyler.
Aye.
Scoville.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Great, passes unanimously. Thank you. Getting there. Item number 18, review and action on intergovernmental agreement between Town of Ridgway and River County concerning noxious weed management and control services.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you said, this is an IGA between the county and us, the town, concerning noxious weed management and control services. It should look very similar to last year and the year before that. The term is for the remainder of the 2025 calendar year. If approved, the county would be, county weed department would be retained by the town once again to continue the services of conducting surveys of noxious weeds on town-owned properties, public property, and making recommendations as to appropriate treatment, conducting those treatments, including application of herbicide treatments as approved by the town in locations determined by both, Julie called with the county weed department and then us, the town. And it's been a pleasure working with Julie over the last few years. She's the communication is really great. We meet periodically to get on the same page about locations and needed applications.
Questions for staff? It's pretty straightforward.
Well, I will contingently move, only Polly can second it. To intergovernmental agreement between Erie County and Town of Ridgway concerning noxious weed management and control services as presented.
Seconded. Thanks, Terry.
Motion by Terry, second by Paul. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Graham,
Aye.
Kroger,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Scoville,
Right.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Thank you. Passes unanimously. That takes us to item number 19. Ratification of a sign-on to an amicus brief from the Save and Center for Climate Change Law at Columbia University to be submitted on behalf of local governments in the state's lawsuit challenging the federal funding freeze. I just wanted to point out the reason this came initially through my membership with Climate Mayors, an organization of mayors all over the country, specifically targeted at climate issues. The thing that caught my eye when Climate Mayors first asked if we wanted to sign on was that this paragraph in the email they first sent. Finally, in case it is helpful in making the case internally for sign-on, the temporary restraining order in New York versus Trump is ambiguous, but in all bold, likely does not unfreeze funding for local governments. The brief we're filing here is critical to make the case that any preliminary injunction the court may issue should be worded broadly enough to provide relief to local governments, not just the state that filed suit. So I just thought that was pretty clear that given the potential chilling effects of the stuff that is trying to be done to freeze funding, we need to make sure we're protected. So that's why I've already agreed to sign on this brief, but I'm hoping you guys will agree to ratify that.
Move to ratify the sign on to the amicus brief from the Save and Center.
Second.
All right. Motion by Beth, second by Polly. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Graham,
Aye.
Kroger,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Schyler,
Aye.
Scoville, Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Thank you very much. That passes unanimously. It takes us to our written and verbal reports.
And then we get the added letter.
Oh, sorry, we got some added. Thank you.
The Marshall's report.
Yeah, first we got to do the things that Preston added on. The
Yep.
first one is this letter about the Billy Creek. Letter of support, Billy Creek State Wildlife Area, River Fisheries Improvement Project. Have you guys had a chance to look at this letter since you sat down tonight?
Yeah.
Any other
This-
questions?
This makes a lot of sense if we've got our river personhood ordinance in place, so.
Yeah, I agree. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the letter of support for the Billy Creek State Wildlife Area Fisheries Improvement Project.
Second.
We'll pause on a roll.
Aha.
Where does letter?
Motion by Beth, second by Paul. Roll call.
Councilmembers Graham,
Aye.
Kroger,
Aye.
Bacon,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
Scoville, Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Thank you, passes unanimously. Then lastly, this letter to Congressman Jeff Byrd, CD3, regarding, again, the actions that are coming out of the current administration, potentially doing some pretty crazy things on our public lands. And this letter came through Robin Cascade of Great Old Broads. And hopefully you had a chance to read it here tonight. And do you have any questions?
Is he on the, I can't even think of the committee right now because my brain is fried. Why is this letter not also going to Hickenlooper and Bennett? Is he on the specific committee that would be dealing with public lands issues?
I'm guessing that's the energy.
The energy, okay. I was just curious. Yeah, otherwise, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I move to approve the sending of the letter to Representative Byrd regarding the order unleashing American energy.
Second.
Motion by Beth, second by Polly. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Graham,
Aye.
Kroger,
Aye.
Brannigan,
I,
Skylar,
Aye.
Scroville, Mayor Pro Tem Martin.
Thank you very much. That's unanimously. Now we can go to Marshal's Office 2024 year-end report. And anything you want to take us through, Shane, or you just wondering if anybody has any questions? You don't, you can, if there's anything you want to highlight in it, would be helpful.
Not really, everybody had a chance to read it, and like we discussed earlier, it was a increase all across the board this year. We had a few notable calls this year. The trespass with the dog dying was kind of an interesting one that we dealt with. Took a lot of man hours. A lady had trespassed on to and used a hot tub at a property and then cut a bag of dog food open, dumped it in the yard. The deaf blind dog that was in the yard and got out, ate the dog food and the gravel because it didn't know the difference and overate. And wound up, the dog died. And it was during a time when the district attorney's office was going through a transition and was short-staffed. So it was an ongoing mental episode with this lady out of Delta, Montrose, and our area, just a random, she pulled into a driveway and got in the tub. Kind of an interesting case that, and she wound up pleading to a whole bunch of felony charges, and this was disposed as part of that. So that was probably one of the most notable. We had the several $1,000s, well, actually it was $10,000 worth of alcohol taken from the liquor store in an Apple Pay scam. And a really newer deputy that was in training in Lake County happened to stumble upon this vehicle that was involved with thefts from here, Montrose, Delta, and a whole lot of businesses on the I-70 corridor. He stumbled upon it, just a suspicious vehicle, wound up seeing the alcohol, high-end alcohol. They were like $3,000 and $4,000 bottles of alcohol that this person targeted, and a lot of new clothing and that kind of stuff in the vehicle, and very wisely got enough probable cause to tie up the vehicle long enough we could get a warrant down there and tied it to, and it's still pending in court. In a long process, but it may turn into multi-state ring
So crazy.
of thefts. So those were just a few of the notable ones. Anybody have any questions about?
Can you remind me what directed patrol means? Is that just?
Those are just like, we pick an area, we target an area and just sit in the area, drive through the area. And it's, kind of a directive I give, you know, just pick areas, different times of day and that kind of stuff, just sit. We run traffic patrols along with those. And we use them like in the school zones or directed patrols during when school's getting in and out. We try and have officers on Green Street and at the crosswalk up there every chance we get, and we can try most days to be there. So.
I'd love to see a graph sometime without the director patrol in there, just so we could have a better idea of all of the rest of the categories, because right now I don't know if they're like 2 or 50 or, you know, like whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, it is good to also know that director patrol is a huge amount of what you're doing, but it would just be interesting to have a better scale for all of the other.
Yeah, and I have some other graphs that kind of show. This one is kind of the most condensed. Next time I'll end, I have some other options.
Great.
Or even just alter the scale. Like, I'm glad to see that directed patrols are the bulk of what you're doing. I think
Yeah.
that's such such a strength of the way we
Preventative
approach
stuff, yeah.
law enforcement. It's
I'm just curious to see the other ones that was easier.
In IDR Regional Data Specialist, she found some new, she was having trouble initially finding specific for calls for service and isolating those, and in our account management system was having trouble pulling those stats, but she finally found a way around that doesn't take her a huge amount of time. So the next time we get a report, and I'm actually having her change the formatting a little bit different because Preston really had some difficulty getting everything to where it would show up right and everything. So
Thanks for the report.
Great. Any other questions?
No questions. Always interesting to read
Thanks, Shane.
stats, see the numbers.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
thanks.
And pass on our thanks to all the different folks.
Yeah. Thank you. And just an update, our electric truck is on the assembly line right now, and our hybrid is completed to build and is awaiting a railroad car designation to get it to Grand Junction.
cool.
So
Very cool.
Can we get like a photo when we get those two vehicles with Shane? Because that's just like, that's putting our money where our mouth is with, especially with master plan stuff.
Yeah,
and Aaron from the newspaper has volunteered to, because we had the picture in here the night of the life saving award that wasn't. And so she's gonna do some photos with the whole department members and the new vehicles.
great. We'd like to be part of that too.
To where,
Yeah, let's go.
And I'll get the sustainability advisory board to show up too.
and the electric charger is slated to be installed in the next few weeks out
Great.
here, and then the one in my house is
Awesome.
scheduled.
Awesome. Very great. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, well, that takes us to the ever amazing town managers.
So early.
It was super, it's because we did a quiz for the youth council, so I had to get it out. And did anyone even know the answers?
Not very well. I mean, who's the mayor? Lauren, she did the best job. She was actually kind of cheating.
That's all right, that's all
She
right.
sort of remembered it, and then she was reading, she was answering the question.
The effort was there. Wastewater testing update, we're working with Kristen at Ridgway County Public Health, and we resumed testing our wastewater. Rodney collects those samples every Tuesday, and sends it out for public health, and so CDPHE actually promised to have a shareable data dashboard for Erie County available soon, so Crystal is gonna let us know when it's available. Retirement party coming up for Mike and Karen, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, February 22nd, that's at Lazy Dog. So, Julie Hunn is gonna start in the administrative assistant role, sometime next week, right? Wednesday. It's
Is
exciting.
that pronounced Hoon, I think?
I don't know, yeah, maybe. Sorry. Excited to have her.
Great.
And right now
Does she live in Ridgway or where is she from?
she lives on the hill, right?
Yeah.
I think it mattered.
And we're hiring for the public works maintenance operator position, hoping soon to have the executive assistant position posted. And then just a note, some of y'all know this, planning commission regular meetings have changed to the third Wednesday of every month. So the next planning commission meeting will be on next Wednesday. The annual cleanup day event will be on Saturday, April 26th. And I believe Alpine Bank will hold the e-waste event in conjunction with ours. So we'll work with them. So circle your calendars, Saturday, April 26th. And then, a lot more information. Your noxious weed survey available still. I checked the link, it's still available. The Mustang changes have gone into effect. I think, I don't think I know. The Telluride to Grand Junction route has been discontinued due to low passenger usage. And then San Miguel Authority for Regional Transportation on February 17th is kicking off their new route between Montrose and Telluride with a stop here, in Ridgway. So that's exciting.
Cool. At the parking lot by the visitor center or?
Their stop will be where the bus tank stop is, so on Palomino. And they starting out there, and we'll revisit as we understand ridership and how it's going and stuff.
We have years to plan that out.
Yeah. Happy to answer any questions.
I thought the joke was good.
What?
You did.
That's the first time in the history.
No, I'm usually sort of neutral, but what'd you think, Bo?
As a guy that doesn't do the best on Valentine's Day, it hit all too hard at home.
I actually gave a, and I haven't ever been critical. Well, maybe a little. Questions for Preston? Anybody?
No questions.
Oh, I didn't get a lot of those emails from Chamber of Commerce. And by a lot, I mean I didn't get any of them.
What emails?
The ones from Sue and Ashley?
No, the
ones today.
Annual report, the visitor profile study, the
47 names up from Fuse and all, it was all today. Ashley was on it. There were quite a few. You were on.
I wasn't, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Sean, there were a whole bunch of emails today. So.
Well, they weren't sent to everybody.
They were not sent to everybody.
Which is sort of interesting.
yeah, just maybe should take a little peek about that.
But
Not that
if they didn't get sent to Preston to be distributed to council, there's nothing, it's just frustrating.
I mean, whoever sent them didn't bother sending them to everybody on council.
Did you get anything, Ben?
I did not.
I didn't either. Yeah, they weren't disseminated from Preston.
They were Business Revitalization Committee upcoming meetings.
Oh,
they were kind of a general.
Yeah, it was like, I did.
And then Ashley chimed in, she gave a lot of information about a heads up for her presentation tonight. It just.
Oh, yeah, no, I got.
Oh, I got that. I thought you meant like.
Is that what?
But that's what I think. That's what
I didn't get any of that.
I saw a lot of your names.
Yeah, I think because it wasn't specifically to the board, it's to a bunch of.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
I did
because
get
of
that.
Hughes.
Yeah, I got.
Presidents. I mean, it didn't say anything on there about.
Well, I think you can just send a note to Tara or Ariel or and ask to be put on that listserv.
Yeah, you should come to Fuse meetings.
Yep. I think I've asked to be on the email list a couple times, but haven't got on there.
It doesn't, it looks like someone might be adding potentially manually.
Yeah, so definitely looks like a manual.
I met with Patrick Sneed, the guy who emailed us all about the trucks and transportation kind of changes and stuff. Really nice guy. He's going to be coming through the area 2 or 3 times more through this year. He said he didn't have too much interaction with too many of us.
I talked to him as well, and he sent me a draft letter that we could
Right, I got that as well.
put together, so that's on my list.
But I just want to say that I'm in touch with him, and so I'm glad you are as well.
Does everybody know what he's talking about?
Yep, and so as that goes forward, yeah.
I think the last thing we need is more bigger trucks on the highway.
Agree 100%. You know, most of what he was talking about was interstate traffic, so we're a ways off, but.
So the claim is that that's minimal impact on the interstates, but it's not like they're not gonna be on these roads as well.
Correct.
Well, how do you get to Durango?
Yeah,
From the interstate.
So, thanks for that report. Anybody else have, any sort of committee reports or anything they want to touch on?
I'll touch on the State Building Advisory Board. We had another productive meeting. Preston was there for half of it, showed up the other half. Where we worked on assigning tasks to various members for various things. Probably the nearest term thing that's going to come before the council will be a draft resolution, a net zero resolution for consideration that's being researched and worked on right now. Also, you guys, in my absence, approved membership to the Mountain 2030 I guess it's, I forget exactly what it's called, charter membership or something.
Foundation.
Foundation membership, which included 3 passes to the upcoming summit, which will be October 7th and 8th in Breckenridge, so that we can talk more about that as it gets there. I accepted the invitation to represent Ridgway on their advisory council. Nothing's good in regards to that yet. So as soon as that wraps up, I'll work on that too. And we can revisit somebody else taking that role if you like, when we look at committees after the elections.
And tangentially related to that, you're all aware of Eco Action Partners and the Energy Board. Kim Wheels reached out to me and copied Terry on it, saying that there's an opening on the Eco Action Partners board that she thought would be a good target for the council member to be on, and we both, Preston and I, responded that we'll wait until after the election when it comes to the assignment committee reports to see if somebody has interest in being on the Eco Action Partner.
Different than the SCP representative.
Yeah,
council, so it's
totally separate.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until you started. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's Eco Action Partner specific, and I think she said they meet once a month, maybe quarterly, I think. But it didn't sound like a joke.
SMK has a board member that's on that board, so she reaches out to a variety of municipalities and organizations.
I think it'd be good for to have one of us on one.
Yeah.
Any interest in the vacancy on sustainability board?
Do we get any interest? Do we get any applications?
I think we have one letter of interest.
It's not sure.
How long is that open?
I think March 3rd or something like that.
Oh, who stepped down?
Angela Hauser did her
Oh.
resignation.
I just couldn't remember if there was another one. Gotcha. Anything else? It's not too bad.
No, that's better than I
thought it'd be 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right, hearing no other business, we are adjourned.
Thanks, Bo. Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you guys.
Thanks, Molly.
Thanks. Bye.
I second Molly.